That's a little rough.
Call the Board of Finance meeting to order on March 23rd, 2023 at 7:02 p.m. Welcome, everyone. I think we may need to seat an alternate for Christina Milhouse, at least for a portion of the meeting. Lisa, are you online?
Yeah, I am.
Thank you, Jerry Marshall. And I'll second. All in favor of seating Lisa for Christina? All opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. So approval of minutes. We can go through that. If you guys are too excited to get to the action, we can wait until when would it be? Almost 3 weeks. So
Let's do
wanna
it.
do it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the first one is February 16th. There any amendments to the minutes?
Oh,
Those were in hand
those
last
were in
week.
hand last week. Hang
Yeah.
on. Trying to get back to
Sure. Anyone else? Any amendments to the February 16th?
Which one? February
16th.
16th? Second. Long packet here.
You got these last meetings.
Last
Yeah,
meeting.
I read them last meeting. If I have any comments, give me one
Well,
second.
February 16th, we had the SBC presentation, and that was pretty much, we sort of took a hiatus on the fiscal budget year that night. And then we got back on board on the 23rd, which will be the next set you look at.
All right, I move, we accept the minutes of February 16th.
Thanks. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Hi.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. So now going on to the 23rd. And this was,
Do we accept the minutes of February 23rd?
okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, and then last is March 2nd. Those of you have in your packets. That was the selectmen's budget. That's in today's packet.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what I did with last week's packet and how everything got mixed in together.
I know it's a lot of paper to shuffle in this.
Yeah.
And wait, there's more fun ahead.
Wait, but wait, there's more.
Oh, gosh. All right.
I move that we accept the minutes of March 2nd. Second.
By Joe. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? 360 votes, just how we like it. Right? Now, opening the floor for present to speak. Public participation is desired and encouraged. Speakers will be limited to time and appropriateness of comments to maintain progress, stay on topic, and maintain decorum. Let's see, Lori Semperbon.
Hello, can you hear me?
Sure. Do you want to give your
Okay.
address, just to be
Yeah.
formal about it?
Sorry, Lori Semperbon, 271 Turnpike Road. I just want to thank the Board of Finance for good discussion last week and for putting all that time and effort in. You know, I know that you're trying to be thoughtful, and we're always trying to balance taxes with needs of the town, and I hope you do you know, consider some of the requests that have been made for increases, hopefully relatively modest increases, but and I know next week's referendum is going to have a big weight, whether one way or the other. And so I just appreciate your work, and I hope you continue to be thoughtful and considerate. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Clark. Matt Clark,
Thank you.
can you
Matt Clark,
thank you.
Matt Clark, 42 Burt Latham Road. Yeah, I want to echo what Lori Semperbon said. Thank you very much for serving on the Board of Finance and all the work that you do. Last meeting, there was a comment made about the debt level of our town, and it was very, very small, and it was less than 1%. And the question was raised in the last meeting about what it would be with the school bonding being proposed. I know you guys are very busy, but I hope that you might be able to take that up as a topic of discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
So.
Okay, who else do we have? Oh, Ralph Tulis.
Good evening, everyone. Ralph Tillis, 47 Village Hill Road. I'm glad to see that this board has finally reached the culmination of the budget process, and I thank you all for your efforts. I have a couple questions for the board to consider. If next Tuesday's referendum passes, what does this board estimate the mill rate to be when the first bond payment comes due in 2027? Obviously, this requires some measure of assumptions, but I would expect that this board has the expertise to make reasonable assumptions and estimate a range. I know what my often mocked spreadsheet on steroids tells me, but I'd really like to hear from the knowledgeable members serving on this board. Is this board aware of recommended debt service limitations commonly imposed by other municipalities? At 10% of the annual budget seems to be typical. Where will we stand in 2027? And lastly, what impact will other necessary and/or desired big ticket expenditures have on our ability to manage the associated debt service? Will we have adequate, prudent bonding capacity remaining should the referendum pass? I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Is there anyone else online? Oh, Nick?
Nick Teller, 40. Yep, Nick Teller, 49 Myrtle. I think what Ralph had to say there is was great in what he said. I also just want to say that while I understand and I respect that everybody as a citizen should have the right to advocate for or against whatever it may be, I do have concern that the chair of the Board of Finance would advocate for the town to spend money on a project that is going to put this town in pretty bad shape. I respect that, you know, she has that right, but it's a concern. So that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Anyone in the room? Peter Litzensik.
Peter Latinchich, 97 Trask Road. Good evening. I too applaud your efforts of rolling up our budget. We recognize what a large task that is. I did have the pleasure of sitting through your last meeting and listening to the audit report. I was glad to see, and kudos to this Board of Finance in our town, that we got a clean bill of health as best I could follow it from the auditors. I sat there thinking about our town and our long-term commitments. And what occurred to me is what I think occurs to everyone. We still have the library bond that has remaining time on it for the next 4 or 5 years, I believe, and other commitments like the Siemens contract we have on all our buildings and pieces and so forth. And I want to express the concern that regardless of the outcome of the referendum on Tuesday, we will either have a new school commitment or major commitments to our existing buildings. And how does that change the situation the town's facing? And I hope you have some time tonight, your deliberations, to speak to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Donna?
Donna Cook, 77 Conway. I was having a discussion with one of my peers this morning, and the accounting profession is now pushing auditors to start questioning a business's ability to refinance debt or get new debt, even if they've had no issues in the past because of the current banking crisis. And if the new school passes, how will this impact the town's ability to borrow for other projects? I've heard about the need for road improvements, and I've also heard about the needs of fire department. So this was something new to me, where a business who's never had an issue in the past is now being questioned about whether or not they can make it another year, and will there get a detrimental report because of things really outside of their control, with what's happening with the banking industry. So I hope that that is considered during the process.
Thank you.
Can you repeat what road we were on? I'm sorry.
77 Common.
Hi.
Hi, Robin Campbell, 33 Stack Road. I just want to thank you guys all for your dedicated work during this budget season. And I'm here as an employee of the town and offering support to one of my coworkers, as well as 2 of our boards and commissions. I say this because I was dismayed after watching the past 2 YouTube meetings where I had observed unprovoked animosity towards Mr. D'Amato and Mr. Guskowski during the budget discussion. Mr. D'Amato is my coworker. We're very lucky, Willington is very lucky to have him. He's professional and extremely knowledgeable of the zoning laws and regulations. The level of expertise that Mike brings to our town would be difficult to replicate at a lower cost, and I'm shocked that it was even suggested. Asking what other towns he works for should have no merit in regards to the zoning budget or his service to the town of Willington. If anything, it benefits us because it gives him knowledge of what is going on regionally. I ask our Board of Finance members, when doing the appropriations tonight, you do so without prejudice across the board, including PZC and EDC. Thank you.
You have written comments?
Yes, ma'am.
If you want to, you can put those in the record. Thank you. Who else, anyone else like to speak at this time? Hi, Christine Sappis.
Christine Sophis, Registrar of Voters. Just an FYI to the board, I sat in on a meeting this morning with the Secretary of State, and I'm afraid that there really isn't any more news. I have nothing new to report. Everything right now in our budget is the same as Suzanne Chapman and I presented to you in February. I don't know if the legislators are still really pushing to get a bill by the end of this month, or it'll be later. The Secretary of State will be attending the Registrar's Conference the first week of April. And I certainly hope, and she knows, we're going to be grilling her to find out something. She did state today that she's still only interested in 10 days of early voting, but there still are bills out there that extend that period of time. One of the registrars in the meeting today asked her if smaller towns might be able to pick the hours of early voting, and she didn't think that that was going to be possible. So whatever bill that they pass, if early voting, 10 days is 9 to 6, 8 to 8, whatever. I know there'll be weekends in there. That's what we're gonna have to have. So again, as soon as we know something, we'll let you know.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we do have a placeholder for contingency, so you'll have more about that
Thank you.
during the meeting. I'm sure we'll get to that. Is there anyone else who is present to speak? You'll have another opportunity at the end of the meeting. So I think we'll just move on from there. Okay, Donna's gonna be helping us with our visuals and our calculating as we go. I hope you all got Donna provided me with the most up-to-date 5-year look back just for reference for you, because we've been kind of using it through this budget season for the first time. And then go off your other documents that have detailed the worksheet and the budget motions for tonight. And we'll just go in order at some point, but if you, I just to frame this, where we've left the discussion is we have a healthy fund balance, we have a healthier grand list than we've had. We have many things sort of falling in our favor in this budget season, but we also have several budget requests that are in the double digits year-over-year percentage increase. And so we're looking to be very thoughtful about that, because it's we feel like as you've heard in some of the public to speak comments, the town is poised for some big challenges ahead, one way or the other. And we're trying to position the town, or to be focused on this budget season in such a way that's as responsible as it can be for the Board of Finance, and that we maintain our charge to be careful about using any taxpayer money and how that's applied. So having said that, that's that's why we're bearing down as much as we ever would, even in a year when we didn't have a healthy fund balance. So when was that? Okay. Does anyone want to weigh in around the board for starters, or shall we go and we can go ahead and I'm assuming we can go ahead and appropriate if there are items that have no dispute as they are, and go from there. But I think you all know, I think you've all shared what a lot of your issues are already. So if anyone wants to jump in, you're welcome.
Are we gonna discuss these as we go?
Sure, sure. You want to just,
That's all I wanted to know.
no,
We can
really.
talk about it in line and keep going.
I mean, I feel like if we start going through motions, we can do that and then sort of say, put a pin in it and come back to it, or stop and deliberate. I think as focused as we can be on the points that have already been made, and what the solutions might be, because we have not voted on anything as yet. So tonight's the night.
Want to do this the way we standardly do it, and one person reads the motion, yeah, another person seconds it.
Yes.
Sure.
If there's no discussion.
Sure.
we can vote.
Do you want the readers and the seconders to be other than the chair? Or
Yes.
is it okay? That would,
We'll volunteer to read.
I'll read. Oh, well, no, you know what? I don't know if you want me to just say like, I make a motion to appropriate 3,976 to. the
We'll
probate
trade
court.
off as voice fatigue weighs in. How's
All
that?
right. All you have to,
Second.
Lisa, if you just say second when I'm done reading, we're good.
Yeah.
All
Sure
right.
thing. Yep.
Starting with, line one, I guess, we're at probate, right? I move that we accept the budget request for line item 0121 probate court for $3,976.
I second.
All in favor?
No, yes.
Aye. Oh, I'm sorry, discussion. It's probate court. I mean, you know, they're never, they send us the bill, we pay it, right?
Right.
Did I get that right? I
You
don't
did
know.
get that right. We still have to have the ability to discuss it.
Okay, let's discuss it.
Hearing none.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions?
I'm, is either say or whoever's keeping up on this, keeping up? Okay. Motion to accept, I move that we accept the budget request for line item 0126 election officials for $48,116.
I second.
Discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Abstentions?
I move we accept the budget request for line item 0131 Board of Finance for $5,018.
I second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
I
motion
move,
passed.
I move to accept the budget request for line item 0132 Treasurer for $11,474.
I second.
Discussion?
Did you guys discuss this at all last meeting?
We've discussed it at about 3 meetings, actually.
No, anything else that came out of it, that's all.
No, I think it's a correction to a newly organized job and the salary attached to it or the stipend. So if anyone has any further issues,
I have a question. Is there a way
Joe?
we could put the additional monies that are requested into a separate fund as not directly into like payroll versus, I don't know, to be used as or use discretionary fund account, anything like that? What I don't want to do is walk into a trend where every elected official now could come back to the table saying they're working harder, they're working longer hours, et cetera. And, you know, we're revisiting this at a much larger dollar value.
well, Joe, I think that the difference here is it's a newly shaped job. It's completely different before. The hours were drastically reduced in the last fiscal year and the current fiscal year. And now we're correcting a little bit for a pretty small job. We're moving the hours from 5 hours to 8 hours.
And I could appreciate the justification, but I mean,
As a
everyone
rough
elected,
guideline.
everyone elected can justify their additional request as well. You know, new schools gonna,
And
or rebuilding existing schools is gonna take X, Y. That's my only concern. You know, anybody can justify their additional workload.
sure, I know what you're saying. I think it's the change that's afoot here. I think that there will be times, the first select woman has said, you know, that they have their antenna up about looking at all elected positions and how they're paid, and we definitely should be reviewing them from time to time, anyway. Many of those, correct me if I'm wrong, get in town raise factor.
So if I may there, I don't think what I said, we're reviewing them. I think we always review salary. I certainly am in a difficult position if, reviewing a salary that belongs to myself while I sit there and the registrars find themselves in that same boat. But I think we look at them there and in the times where they really needed to be adjusted, that discussion has come before a board and typically around a time where there would be an election. So not necessarily advocating for yourself. It may or may not be you, right? It's difficult. And I think it begs a broader conversation. Yes, all of those positions are anticipated to have the same annual increase as all other town positions. But I think currently where I sit, this was a different one, and I have kind of a mixed feel about it. I think if we hadn't just made such a big change in the job, this wouldn't be something that would be coming before you. And so after doing it for 1 year, I think there was probably a little bit of a difference in estimation, but I don't see this coming back. I think there would have to be a much broader, longer conversation with the Board of Finance and probably the Board of Selectmen involved if there were more talk about elected official salaries. And currently there are only 4 of those that are really, included many hours. The Board of Assessment Appeals is included in that, but that's a very small factor. So I don't see it being a trend.
That's my only concern. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't, the money, I'm not worried about the money. I'm just worried about opening a door that we can never close.
Pete, did you have something to say?
Yes, Joe, I fully understand your trepidation here. I don't think it's that we're opening a door that we won't be able to close. I think it's a door that's already open. And that unfortunately, that's our job, is to sit here and consider each one of those and make a decision on each one of them. We can't avoid the hard decisions by saying no to everybody, you know what I'm saying?
No, and I can appreciate that. I just want to make sure, again, we're not revisiting this in 3 months from, 3 other departments.
No, we'll be revisiting this in 12 months from 3 other.
If I could just speak to that, the dollars we have within each department are what we have to work within a budgeted year.
Right.
And so, it would have to be something drastic to come back to the Board of Finance asking for more money outside of a normal appropriation through the budget process. And I don't see any of that forthcoming. I think you're talking about the change in job with the registrar's office in your discussions and taking that into account. But I think in a short period like that, no. Could it come up in any annual budget? Yes. And I would hope with much deliberation. And this was one that was talked about for some time.
Any other discussion? Let's take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
I move that we accept the budget request for line item 0133 auditor for $43,300.
I second.
Discussion on this one. It is contractual. Okay, call for the vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
All opposed? Abstentions?
I move that we accept the budget request for line item 0135 Board of Assessment Appeals for $1,442.
Discussion? Oh, sorry, Elise.
Discussion?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention?
I move that we accept the budget request for line item 0161 Conservation Commission for $1,500.
I second.
Discussion? This one's been at that level for 10 years, did she say? 13 years, something like that? Not real controversial on that one. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention?
I move that we accept the budget request for line item 0171 Planning and Zoning for $145,387.
I second.
Discussion on this?
Yes, actually, I'd like to propose we drop this down by $24,387. As of Tuesday, our assistant land use agent is no longer with us. And given the discussion, the fact that I consistently and will continue to believe that this department is way overfunded for the size of our town and the commitment of that role. I think this affords us the opportunity to evaluate this position for the mechanics of the entire department, quite frankly, to see if there are other opportunities that would be more effective and more cost effective, such as soliciting a full-time land use agent, or even a part-time land use agent, and see at a reasonable salary. So that the costs that I'm proposing actually would add 6,000 back to Tyke's contract, our current land use agent's contract. It also adds another $15,000 out of the current land use salary that I think affords enough of a buffer to potentially solicit for to see a reasonable salary for a full-time land use agent, even though I know we don't need one, or an assistant land use agent, which might be more appropriate, or a full-time land use agent that contracts with another town, if other towns are amenable to it. But I figure if it's not used, we have a document retention yield request of $5,000. If you know everything, if it turns out that the current situation and there isn't a more appropriate scenario, I think we can put $20,000. That would afford $20,000 to do that land use retention and really get that document retention up to speed in one fell swoop instead of staggering it for 4 or 5 years. So that is what I would propose. It allows us the opportunity to evaluate it without any significant change currently, because we don't have an assistant land use agent at this moment. And I think it's worth the discussion and worth the look.
Oh, okay, first of all, what figure did you come up with? 24,387?
24,387. It would make the total $121,000.
Okay.
I like my numbers, sorry.
Oh, you like to arrive at them, but you don't like to use them to get there. I see.
No, so it's all based on it's 21,000. It's the land use, the assistant land use number in there minus 21,000, which is 6,000. Bring Tyke's contract back up to the 68, to the 48, excuse me, that he was prior to having an assistant land use agent on board. And again, another $15,000 that could be used towards land retention. If there lost me there.
Yeah, you were talking really fast and you
All right,
thought this out, but you
So-
didn't like bring any little
So,
visual
sorry.
for us, did you?
No, I didn't bring a visual.
Okay,
So
this is a big thing.
what I heard in the discussion was that Tyke policy and planning group reduced their salary when an assistant land use agent came on, or their contract by $6,000 when an assistant land use agent came on, from $48,000 to $42,000 to
Yes.
cover some benefits. So now that we don't have an assistant land use agent, I'm saying let's make that whole, if that is the case, if that's the appropriate direction. But I think what I'm saying is the balance is it's the appropriate time, because we don't have a current assistant land use agent, to see what other opportunities are out there that might be more fiscally responsible for this town and provide a full-time zoning agent, a planning or land use agent. I held back 15,000 more because I think honestly, to get that, we need to pay somebody. There's potentially a salary that needs to be more than what we could offer or have offered previously. So I know there was complaints that we couldn't get, at the salaries we were able to provide previously when we solicited for it. It was because we didn't have enough salary. So I think 121,000 still allows for a recording secretary at the current salary, $5,000, that they have and all the rest of the budget, but it affords enough of a window to offer an attractive salary for a full-time land use agent. And then if we can get an agreement with another municipality that would share that, great. That's even more savings to our pocket of half-time full FTE.
Without further ado, I'm gonna go to the first select
If
board.
I could speak to a couple of things. One, Mr. D'Amato is a staffing meeting that's happening downstairs. So certainly not able to participate in this. So I was coming to share something separate from you, but I would ask that you consider pausing this discussion and he had the ability to speak to the department staffing. But I'd asked for an estimate for the documents retention that he spoke to you about. The outside of the salary increases, the only increase in that budget was $5,000 for that. This afternoon, he received that amount that came in at the first estimate we got was $100,000. So shocking to all of us. It does have a $10,000 minimum. So if we did it in pieces, 5,000 would not be enough. So I want to share that with you. Late breaking news that was shared with me just before the meeting.
Can you just repeat that?
we talked about the document retention, and Mike put in $5,000 in the budget to try to do
Yeah.
it over years to,
And you've got to do them in $10,000 increments. Okay.
and I gave the estimate at about $100,000. But I apologize, the number is not in my head listening to all of this. They estimated the number of pieces we had downstairs and somewhere around 1 million pieces of paper that have to be done. So just some food for thought as we deliberate that $5,000. As far as the proposal, remind the board that you have dollar amount on the budget, not hire and staffing decisions at the board level. We do have a current person on staff. It is a union position. We have already begun soliciting for a replacement. So that position is planning to be filled. And again, I'll remind you, it's a union position, so the salary is not up for negotiation outside of the contract. I don't believe what's being proposed is what is best suited for the town. I believe what we have in place best serves the town currently, and I would encourage the board to not make that drastic a cut in that department.
I would simply argue that comparable towns have a budget that is significantly less. Ashford is $51,000. Let's be honest. This is 100, and I don't even know what the original request is. $145,000 is absurd, in my opinion. And I just, it's another one of these things. Quite frankly, I don't want to compare it to, but the library discussion we have about restructuring, and they need to take a serious look at what's appropriate for the size and scope of the department and what their needs are. This is another one that's exactly the same. So that is, you guys haven't weighed in on this previously, and this is obviously a new request, but or a new suggestion. But I'm trying to find a middle ground here that allows for the current situation to stay in place, but we don't have to have a land use, an assistant land use agent position. There has to be some way of, because we didn't previously.
We actually did previously.
Right, and then we did.
We absolutely did previously, and then there was a time, there was a lull in that hire, and that union position was then filled. There was an adjustment made to a contract we had to be able to fully fund that position. I think that's what was important.
That's all.
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Right.
Procedural question.
Go ahead.
We have a
motion on the floor.
We have a motion on the floor. We have an amendment to the motion, and then we haven't taken up the amendment first. And then what I'm suggesting right now as a procedural measure is we table this whole thing until Mr. D'Amato can come upstairs.
That is.
So I'm moving to table it.
Well, wait.
Well,
You can't move to table it yet.
Oh,
You got too many motions. Too many motions. Okay. First of all, there's a motion on the floor to approve this made by you.
Right.
Okay. So are you withdrawing your motion or not? I don't even know if that's even allowed. Okay, how about this? We can vote on the motion or, and then, and then, if people want to table it and discuss it further, and Mike comes upstairs, we can do that. I'm just telling you the truth, I'm not 100% sure. Would the town clerk like to weigh in?
Well, I just have a question. How is it different if we split it with our land use person?
What, wait, you're talking about the proposal. We're just talking about the motion to appropriate. Okay.
Sir, you guys had a motion on the floor, it was seconded, you discussed, and then there was a counter motion after.
That did not have a second.
Oh, it didn't have a second, okay. So yeah, you guys can.
Lisa, you didn't question,
We-
you jumped in before she seconded.
No, she seconded his motion. I'm proposing.
You're proposing.
Reducing
Okay.
it 24,000.
As part of discussion, do you want, do you choose to, as the person who made the motion, do you choose to accept the amendment as a friendly amendment?
Not until we've had some discussion from Mr. D'Amato, which is why
Okay.
I'm choosing to now move to table it.
Okay, so I want to call the question on the motion then, which is,
Call the question on the motion to table or the motion to,
if you want to withdraw the motion, you can.
I can't because it's been seconded.
You can just table it.
We can just
Table it, okay. let's table it until,
To vote on
yeah, until Mike comes upstairs. And then we'll have further discussion because there's a lot to discuss here. Okay, so put a pin in it.
it. We have to vote on the table.
All right.
Vote on tabling it.
Is there discussion on tabling?
No.
Thank God. Okay.
So does Peter
All in
make the
favor,
motion to
all
table?
in favor.
Motion to table, yeah.
Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay,
All
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Lisa, did you vote? All opposed? Abstain? Okay. Motion carried.
All right, so that's tabled and now we move
Yeah.
to zoning board of appeals. I move that we accept the budget request for line item 0172 zoning board of appeals for $5,147. Second.
Okay, you're muted, Lisa. Okay. All in favor?
Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry, discussion on the ZBA. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that we accept the budget request for line item 0175 economic development, $23,000.
I second.
Is there discussion?
Just that I hope it comes around. Fellow.
Oh, that we
Just
did
I
it,
hope-
economic
Just I hope
development,
it
sure,
develop and
we're all for
it
that.
grows, interest grows.
Anyone else? Joe, Jeff? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I move that we accept the budget request for line item 0176 inland wetlands for $2,000.
I second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention.
Moving on to emergency services. I move to accept the budget request for line item 0231 fire marshal for $27,168.
I second.
Is there discussion?
Just to verify the number on this, because the last sheet I have had it at 2712, not 168.
Yes, I think he did not put in a salary increase for himself, and
Yeah, I just wondered if it's a typo in the spreadsheet. That's fine.
I'll tell you what I have on the spreadsheet. I have 27,168.
Is that on their spreadsheet?
What is missing is the deputy fire marshal is entitled to a 2.75% increase. So instead of 1,469, it really should be 1,509 for a budget request for fire marshal. So that changed it from 27,128 to 27,168.
Thank you. That's what this is my
Yes.
paperwork. I just wanted to make sure. I got it right.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Move to accept the budget request for line item 0232 fire protection, AEDs and dispatch for $36,017.
I second.
Discussion. I have some discussion about this. And I included a letter in your packet about it. Here's the thing. It's gone in the last 2 years. The Tallinn dispatch charges have gone from 20,000 to 30,000 essentially in the last 2 years. Last year it went up like to 22,000 something. I don't have the exact figure. And then this year it's going up 34%, but together it's like a 10,000 jump in the services from 20,000 to 30,000. So preparing for tonight and appropriations and everything, I got the letter, which I shared with you all. And I'm concerned for a few reasons. I realize that this is not, appropriation night is not the night to figure out too much about this because we have had a long-standing contract, or not a contract, but agreement Tallinn Dispatch. And, but the situation is we're basically, we have a lot of crossover between Tallinn Dispatch and our own emergency services, just to be very clear about it. And we have not put this out to bid for quite a while, I'm assuming. There are other providers. And what alarms me about the letter in particular is that it's a step process, so that they're changing the way they bill. And so it used to be population based. We, of course, in the last census lost, almost 10% population. And now it's becoming call volume based. And as you know, and these discussions have happened on this, in this regard, Wellington is quite active in its mutual aid relationships with surrounding towns. Our ratio is, 3.1 in some, 2.1 in some, but with Tallinn, it's 7.1 calls. And a lot of that is because we provide 24/7 service and those other towns don't, even if they have ambulance staffs. We have a relationship with Union where we're in the same primary service area. So we make 80 calls there. They don't have an ambulance to return mutual aid. It's a primary relationship agreement that we've discussed at this table before, and trying to get some share of cost from them. This is just, to me, it's another spiraling cost in running the ambulance. And I'm concerned about it because like this year, it's based 2/3 on population, 1/3 on call volume. Next year, it's 1/3 more, 2/3 for call volume and 1/3. And then the third year, it's all on call volume. I just don't see that. I see it like, that sounds like an escalating issue. But I just, even in this year, and more than one of you, I think Joe brought it up, I think Jim brought up the increase because it jumps out at you in this budget as a, huge double digit increase. I mean, just for comparison's sake, I mean, it's like something like 7,600 in 1 year on a tab that used to be closer to 20,000. So I guess what I would say is, I mean, I would like the Board of Finance to at least make a recommendation that we look further into this agreement. Or, I mean, I'm not saying we should hold up the appropriation tonight, although I'm open to ideas, but I'm troubled by it. It almost feels predatory to me. So I'm just wondering if I'm alone in this thinking, or if there are others who have views. Pete.
I see Mr. Millis in the back. The call volume, is that based on the unit dispatched or the area where it's dispatched from? So for instance, if Wellington's going to Tallinn, is that a Wellington call or is it a Tallinn call?
It's in-town calls only, what you're assessed for. It's no mutual aid whatsoever to anywhere.
Okay.
In-town calls only. That's in the letter.
All right. So
very, if you don't mind, very basically, over the years, we determined, for the record, my name is Tyler Millis, I'm the executive director of Tallinn Mutual Fire Service, which is a large regional 911 center which serves actually 4 counties, stretching from Lebanon up to East Grand. We're one of the largest regional centers in the state. One of the things we discovered after looking at our forecasting of our revenues and our expenditures in the out years is that population is a very poor indicator of call volume. And one of the things, there was a committee that was formed or established to look at how we're assessing our towns. And what we discovered was that there were some disparities with some of the busier towns between some of the smaller towns, and there was a question of were the smaller towns subsidizing some of these other towns because of what they're paying. The end result was that they determined and made a recommendation of what the directors voted on
to slowly transition over a 3-year period into a pay-per-call fee structure. So the first year was based on 1/3 call volume, 2/3 population. Year 2, which is the following fiscal year, would be 2/3 call volume, 1/3 population, and the third year would be strictly call volume. When you look at the models and you kind of extrapolate out that formula, looking out all the way out to, we did it out to 25, 26. In Millington's case, there's actually an initial bump. And there was a lot of other towns that were like this. Well, Holland was like that. Some of these towns really took a larger hit this year. But as you actually slowly transition to the paid per call, there's a leveling out, in some cases, a reduction. So as an example, using estimate budget numbers, I don't know when we make our budget next year what exactly it's going to be, but we were able to kind of hone in on some numbers. And we utilize the population statistics out of Department of Public Health every year. So, as of right now, you look at next year's, not next year's fiscal year, the following fiscal year, there's actually a reduction plan for towns of Millington size and call volume. The third year, there's actually somewhat of a leveling off, right? I think the projection was up maybe $1,000, and then it just kind of stays at the call volume level. So the theory was that the municipalities that we dispatch for are going to be charged for whatever activity they generate out of the center. How many calls we dispatch for you versus how much you're going to pay. There are some communities such as Vernon, East Windsor, Stafford, Mansfield. Vernon is faced with a $30,000 increase for the next 3 years. However, their call volume is 6,000 calls a year. East Windsor is 4,000 calls a year. Mansfield is upticking to 3,000 calls a year. So it's a leveling off, and a pay to play isn't really the right term, but we're actually charging municipalities for the actual work that they're causing the dispatch center to perform on their behalf. And then animal controls in that also. We also dispatch the animal control, provide communication services. So to reiterate what Pete said in the beginning, it's strictly in-call towns only. There's no way for us to properly charge people. As you pointed out, Stephanie, you can't charge Wellington residents to this bill to go to town, to go to Union, to go to Yukon, mutual aid per ambulance call. That's not fair to anybody. So that's why it's only in-town call generated only.
So a town like Union that has nobody that goes anywhere, their in-call town volume, in-town call volume is 0.
A couple hundred.
Well, they don't have an ambulance to send, so they can't be.
But they're still going to the call. They're still being active.
Their fire FD won't meet the ambulance on scene. All right.
Yep, they're still all EMT.
Got it. Yep.
It's in town calls only, and there's a leveling off in the second year and in the third year until it's just strictly what the activity is generated by the municipality.
I'm just not seeing, first of all, if the step process is supposed to alleviate things for the smaller towns, or, I don't see how going up 50% over 2 years is softening anything. I mean, this is like, this increases 0.5% of our one of our largest budgets in the town, the public works. So it's really hard for me to get my head around where that, almost $8,000 is supposed to fall from the skies.
Actually, when you're looking at the 5-year, take into account the animal control change. That was a big bump last year. The dispatch center never did animal control. That's why you see a large increase. Was because of the animal control that now the dispatch center had.
Last year, you mean for this year, like the 11% increase this year?
Yeah, the 11% increase for this year was the animal.
It's definitely, I'm not sure if you went into it last year.
I think we went into it last year.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
But I think this year was the first year we saw the actual full, because that was a partial.
Yes.
We see and that makes a big change when you're trying to look at the 5-year average of it.
I don't know. How much is your projected increase in receipts for this reshifting? I gotta think it's a nice cash cow to do it this way.
well, I wouldn't call it a cash cow, so it's called, we create a budget and we base our municipal fees to meet our budget. We're not a profit corporation, we're not in to make money, we're in to break even, and that's what we do every year. So, we perform two functions at regional center. One is that we answer 911 for the entire area, and we also provide dispatch and coordination services, among many other technology advancements that the fire departments and ambulance services take advantage of.
If it's that out of whack, I'm surprised we haven't really heard about it before.
Well, I think that's your opinion, it's out of whack. I think it's a critical service that we recognize it made a fundamental shift in how we're building.
I'm saying in cost impact, it's out of whack. So my question is, could we maybe see some data about calls and about surrounding towns and how this is working out around and what's projected, actually projected for the next 2 years? Because, it sounds like it's gonna be as heavy.
There are some that are more heavy because they're qualified, sure, absolutely.
Well, I'm not sure about Wellington. We're one of the smallest towns, so we're seeing.
You're not one of the smallest towns.
Well.
Oh, I see
5,500.
AEDs are in on this too.
I'm sorry?
I see AEDs are in on this line item.
Yeah,
How many are we getting?
It's projected this is the year we start replacing pads and batteries.
All right.
So we go through, replace all of the first round of pad batteries.
How much is that?
They're 400 a piece, plus we're doing the outside pieces at this River Park, and then we're trying for the school complex as well.
Do we have new ones coming in, new units?
Yes, there's 2 for each firehouse.
Thank you.
2 for each firehouse?
Yeah, so we do it with Wellington Hill, so it's also.
Right. So altogether, you just gave a report where.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember off the top of
Was
my head.
5 or 6? 5?
No, it's just
6 new ones.
6,000. Well, no, it's 6,000, so it was 4 new machines and 2 boxes. Yes.
And what's planned ahead is
Yeah,
3?
so after.
Your heart stopped. You really want some?
Yeah, we have to start replacing the pads.
I can hear you.
I'm sorry, we have to start replacing the older equipment, so the pads, the batteries, and the big push is to get them into more public places. So River Park, we have a machine for there, but we can't leave it outside. So we're purchasing a security box. that
Okay,
You have
yeah,
to call 911, get a code, be able to open the box, and do an AED. Same thing at the school complexes, be outside.
okay. But actual new AEDs for this year,
Would be 3, and then you have to replace 4 sets.
okay,
Yeah, 3 new AEDs and 4 of the older pad back.
okay. I would just encourage that we may look at competitive bids for this. Any other
I mean,
discussion?
are there? Yeah, where would you go? I don't know.
Real Manic,
Okay, I
Comfort.
don't know. That's what I'm asking. Rick, I haven't dealt with,
Stop.
haven't dealt with Willimantic, no. All right.
That under advisement.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay,
Ready to vote?
any other discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
I move to accept the budget request for line item 0234 Emergency Management Director for $7,047. Second.
Discussion. Take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
I move to accept the budget request for is this O-004? Transfer out for ambulance PR for $664,468. Anybody?
I'll second that. I don't think she does.
All right.
Okay. Is there discussion? I have some if there is not.
Yeah, I'll let you start where we left off last time. Or some of the suggestions where we're at. Right?
Okay. We have discussed this in the past. There's several things I think we could do with this. It's down like from 26.4 to 20, maybe 25 or something, with some tweaking. But let's see, I'm just trying to find my budget. No, I haven't had those. Oh, yeah. I could just look at it. Yeah, I did have notes on it. So, yeah. I can find them. Okay. So, first of all, and I think we discussed this, I think it's a budget year where we really can't add a position to a budget that's this big already. I have some thoughts about that, but you know, we also, the Board of Finance in its letter to the budget presenters asked for to be, you know, to highlight any proposed adds to staff or any expansions of payroll. And this is just, it was not done that way. It was not part of the presentation. It wasn't something we were aware of until we looked a little deeper into it. So I would suggest that 11,296 should be moved out of the budget for a future proposal. And I think I'm guessing that the way this has been handled in the past is either downtime, since it's earmarked for someone who's already on staff. So that's one thing. I think in addition to that, it makes sense to do some placeholders that we did last year to carve down the overall ask, because it's just so large. So such a large increase year over year. But I don't think we should repeat 60,000 out of Fund 17, because that fund has been primarily for large vehicle purchase, and it accumulates a balance. I know it's for other things too, like there's some equipment in there, and it has augmented payroll, and we've done that for several years, I think, to the tune of 10,000. So I'd like to get back closer to that. And do some other things. And so I'm recommending 10,000 for the Fund 17 help there it would be under revenue. And then I'm recommending, and the tower lease rental, we've always relied on to balance this out. And that's 30,000, remains at 30,000. And in addition to that, I think we should put a placeholder in for 30,000 for the town of Union to get closer to paying a share for the 80 calls a year about that we do there. That offset would bring us down from the 26.4% original amount to an 8.4% increase. And that's, I mean, you can see year over year, last year, the increase is a lower hit because we did some of this offset. So we've done, you know, it was it's continually growing. We're continually trying to offset it. So I just, last year it came in as a negative because we were acknowledging the case that, during COVID and everything else, that emergency workers' pay became hugely competitive. And so we made those adjustments with the ambulance service to address that. This year, it's still a big increase. So that's what I would recommend. And altogether, that would take the transfer out to, let me see,
1,296 reduction.
it would be, it's a 91,296 reduction. It would be 573,172.
Were you thinking 10,000 or 20,000 from Fund 17?
20.
20,000.
Oh, sorry, I heard 10.
Did I say
You
10?
did say 10.
Oh, that we've been doing it 10. I think we should go up to 20 to soften that. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Procedural
Otherwise,
question.
yeah,
Are you introducing this as an amendment?
yes.
Do we have a second on the amendment?
I'll second.
I'll second. Oh, okay.
All right, Vijay.
So is there discussion?
Can I make comments?
Sure.
Sorry.
Well, yeah,
If you don't mind. Just the administrative part of it, the fact that you said that it was not presented, it was in our budget packet. And our plan was the night that we did our budget presentation is to talk about it, but the entire conversation got so far off track that by the end of it, it was there, it's in our budget packet. It was given to you guys 2 weeks before, a week and a half before, to be able to review it.
I didn't see it outlined in the narrative.
It is in the narrative of the budget packet.
Maybe it was not positioned as a new position or something.
It was in the
Okay.
letter.
It was in the letter for the budget.
Okay.
So I just, to say it wasn't, it was there.
I just didn't hear anything about it that night, so, I think, regardless, we're in a similar situation with the library. It's just not, it's not a time to do that. If the budget increase is that way, and I think that obviously there's something that you're doing now to handle it. I think it's something that, you can bring to the table again, rather it be more of a discussion that leads the discussion when you're adding a position than going over kind of the boilerplate stuff.
I'm just curious, the 25%, is that a 5-year average of 25%?
I'm sorry.
You keep saying 25 or 26%. Where are you doing this?
Well, no, it's year over year. It's year over year. So,
But the fact of the matter is that our budget request is 5.75% above what it was last year. So even keep saying it's 25% from last year, that's not true. It's not an accurate depiction.
the actual cost though
Our
is,
request is 5.75 from last year's allocated funds. Donna, I just want to be crystal clear that the number that they're going to vote on is after the infusion of the 20,000 out of Fund 17 and the 30,000 that we donate to the town from the tower. Is that correct?
Correct?
yes.
That is correct.
30,000 from Union.
And 30,000 from Union,
A
which,
placeholder.
but, and I'm gonna caution you again, as the chair, you're making up a fictitious number that we have not negotiated yet. I'm gonna strongly caution you not to do that. You can put that in, you can put 10,000, 5,000, $100 million in there if you want. It's a fictitious number that you're making up that is not based on any type of reality whatsoever.
It's based on reality in terms of the
On
cost.
your
of the-
reality. Nobody
May I
else-
say something,
know-
Stephanie?
Time out. Yes, you may, Lisa.
I just want to say, Tyler, that I think Chairman Summers has done a very good job being very thoughtful about her look backs, her research on the budget that the transferred out ambulance grant was presenting, or line item 0004. And I think you need to hear her, Tyler. I think you're over talking her now. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
You,
You understand what I'm saying now?
I understand exactly
We're
what you're
actively
saying.
negotiating
I
terms of
understand
a
exactly what
contract,
you're
and you're putting
saying.
the number in there already.
Did you want to say something?
No,
Okay, because I
I'm
hear you
waiting.
making noises.
I'm waiting for this to vote on the amendment.
Yeah. Here's the thing, the last time we met, you said, of course, we will consider this. I realize it's not the same as taking something from another fund and augmenting that way. I fully realize that. But I feel like the Board of Finance has been pretty patient on this process, and that particular evening of the presentation, Alex said, we don't have a meeting in place yet. And that, I think that's been, a year and a half ago. It was like summer of, 22 or whatever it was. And it was 23, I mean, 21.
We just had a meeting the other day with the first second review.
I'm sorry.
We just had a meeting the other day with the first second review about this subject.
Okay, well, it's something that we've been like, we need to put some attention on it and some highlights. So I realize it may be tricky, but it's like, it's just kind of out of control. And frankly, there hasn't been a lot of transparency. I'm just, I'm not getting, it's taking a lot of effort to get information that I frankly am not having that trouble with other nonprofits in town. I feel like this is a time where, I don't want to just roll things into a budget and just let it go, because it's big numbers we're talking about. You've got to realize it's a burgeoning cost. It is for everyone. And we're a small town, and we're assuming a lot of cost, and in some cases for another community. So that's what I'm recommending. If the board feels that that's harebrained or crazy, I understand that. Or if if there's discussion about approach to the numbers, I'm happy to hear about it.
So
Is there further discussion? Please.
call the question on the amendment,
Okay.
which it would. So I move,
You want me to recap it?
yeah, well,
Go ahead.
let me see here what I have to say first. I move that we $664,468, and then it was amended to, what was your number?
573, 172.
So I think what we have to do first is vote on the amendment, and if that passes, then we vote on the amended motion. That would be my guess.
Right, okay.
All right, so do I say, I
Wait
make a
minute,
motion?
Lisa, wait a minute. I move that we call the question. So now we have to vote on that first, on whether to end discussion.
Okay, all in favor of calling the question?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, now we vote on,
Opposed, abstention?
sorry,
Okay.
I thought I heard 6 already.
No, but
Yeah.
you're not, you're over talking Chairman Summers, and it's aggravating.
Is there any need for me recapping what I laid out there? Is everyone clear on it?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor of
Of your,
the motion to adjust the ambulance but transfer out as stated from 664,469 to 573,172.
Stephanie, I think it's 664, 468 to 573, 172.
Is that right? I'm sorry. Thanks.
That's okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think we'll need a roll call.
Okay. It might take me a little while because I just want to make sure I get everybody's names. Jim M.
Aye.
Joe,
No.
Jeff,
No.
Peter,
No.
sorry, Lisa,
Yes.
Stephanie.
Yes.
So that's
Three and the
four
amendment
no's,
failed.
2 yes.
Wait, what? Anybody?
Oh, I'm sorry. 3, 7, 2, 3, 3, and 3.
So the amendment fails.
Okay,
So now we call the question on the original 664.
with no adjustments, no negotiation.
My concern is the union thing. I agree with these gentlemen. I don't think 30,000 is a realistic number for us to chase from that. It would be wonderful if it was, if we could get that, but I don't, I think the money that they gave us from ARPA last year, 12,000 is a much more realistic figure, affordable figure, gives us a better target to chase. They've done it in the past, so maybe they'll do it again. I don't think, going for 30,000, basically triple what we got last time. I don't think they're gonna even entertain that. That's just my thoughts. Again, I don't, obviously I haven't sat in any of those meetings.
Right.
I'm not on the email chain, so I don't know, but I just, if I was gonna go for a number, I'd much rather see us, use a placeholder of, 12,000 over 30.
This has been an issue that's been discussed for a couple of years now, and the only gesture we saw, 13,000 from ARPA money as a one-time thing. It sounded like we haven't heard anything since then. The idea was it would step up to something closer to what the service the taxpayers of Wellington pay to have offered the service without any income from union for those calls that were in it's different from mutual aid. They don't have an ambulance. We're in a primary service area with them that was agreed to, which means we drop everything and run to their calls as their first responders. It's not a mutual aid situation, although mutual aid often works that way. And the proportionate call, the proportionate amount of service that we do there is roughly 10%. And their population is roughly 10% of ours. So it's, presuming if our ambulance service is costing, by the ask this year, close to 700,000 now, 667, whatever. It would be presuming that something close to 70,000 annually is a reasonable amount, or something that would be negotiated by other metrics. Although we work the figures, we costed out our budget, our ambulance service, including the vehicles and everything else. So it was a fuller number, and we came out with the same thing. Either way, we did it by the simple math or by the bearing down on the details. So it feels like we're not making a move toward that, and I'm concerned about the lack of energy to do so, because the Wellington taxpayer continues to pay really 2/3 to 3/4 of the cost of an ambulance service. out of taxpayer money, not from revenues that are returned from it. Those are about a quarter, between 24, 28%. So
I agree with you on all of it. I would like to get them for every dime they should be paying town of Wilmington. I would like to see them pay $70,000 a year plus. You know, I just don't want to see us put a placeholder of something that we're going to get a zero. They're not, and as it sits now, they're almost unwilling to sit there.
So
Yeah,
what
but
would,
Joe,
what would you put in there?
I would feel more comfortable with using the 12,000 as a placeholder.
no,
And, you know, at least we're.
Well, they
at
paid
least-
13, so.
Well, then 13 then. I mean, at least we're chasing something we've gotten in the past versus, you know, to go chase 30,000. I don't, you know, see us making any headway.
My thinking
No,
is that.
what are they gonna
was
do?
another quarter of the way, you know, that's the
can't-
reason I came up
But
with
Lisa,
that.
we can't deny services to them. So
Of
if they tell
course
us
you
no, they
can.
give us zero.
they don't
No.
want services,
No,
Joe.
you can't.
You can't,
You cannot legally do that.
well,
Listen,
we're in.
let
an
me tell
agreement
you,
now.
hold on. Legally, we're not even going into the legal category of this. We didn't get a lawyer involved. We didn't get our selectman to go and get a conversation going with the union selectman because he wouldn't speak with her because he knows we're not pressing it far enough. And I think Stephanie did an eloquent job bringing it to a level that is a dent. It's a small dent in what has just been a slippery slope. And I think you have to put a placeholder in, Joe. And I think Stephanie did a lot of research to get to the
Disagree with that. I
the
just don't-
94,000.
Can
So I mean, before you,
Yeah, I don't know if you need to, I mean, you know, I mean, I'm comfortable with doing something like 25 or 20 for that placeholder. I just think it needs to be in there somewhere to remind us that this is something that is not just a nice annual comment, that this is serious business.
Steph, just so you know, Christina just entered on you.
Okay. Christina, are you prepared to join us?
Yes, I was
And-
just looking for all my papers, but yes.
Thank you for your service, Lisa, but feel free to comment, and you as and Jim Gilligan. So go ahead and say what you wanted to say, Jim.
I'd support either 15 or 20. I don't know whether we need to make a second counter motion, you know, or I don't know how that works, but I see both sides of this. I
What about
feel like
20?
there needs to be an incentive to go, but
Could we use 15? He's more realistic to what's happened in the past.
It's fine.
why would you do that if you think that they're not going to pay? Why wouldn't you just go for what they should be paying for? Why would you reduce it?
I think there's the opportunity for them to try to negotiate in. It's, I don't know. I also think we.
Yeah,
need
how
to
about that
come to a resolution.
incentive for our guys to maybe, you know, push for more so that we, maybe within 10 years, we get to some kind of parity. That'd be cool. Okay. Is there any other discussion about that figure or anything else about?
So what number are we voting on now?
We still have a question on the original.
I think we,
Still have a motion on the original 664, 468.
right, so Joe was saying,
Track
He-
15 from that?
he was saying, yeah, subtract 15,000. And I'm willing to do that.
All right, so did Joe make an amendment?
There's move to make it amended by subtracting 15,000.
Did you make a
I did
motion?
not, no. No, it's just a discussion.
That was kind of my.
Am I moving the 664 or from the 573 that we?
No,
You
you
just-
subtract whatever, 664, 460 minus 15,000 would be the number that you'd be amending it to.
No,
No, it's, we bring it to 580 with all the other amendments, I think is the discussion.
Right.
With all the other, well, that
580,
failed.
170.
Yeah, the other one already failed.
That was at
But-
573.
The
They're saying-
573 failed already.
But they're saying,
So
but
now we're back up to 664.
No, I want to go.
And
No.
then,
He wants to include the 30,000 for the,
I can do
all
this
the
a
other
motion at a
motions.
time.
hey, let Stephanie talk it through.
no, I mean, if we, He's-
You can make another motion amendment for anything you want. We'll vote on it.
I mean, we can,
Put it to 588, 172, I believe.
588, 72. Okay,
that would be Stephanie, oh, so he's amending Stephanie's amendment that failed?
No, he's repeating, he's modifying the prior terms, I guess, and creating a new amendment.
yes, which would
All right.
include removing the administrative post for 11,296, doing the usual tower rental donation of 30,000, doing 20,000 from Fund 17, with a placeholder of 15,000 to seek from the town of Union to pay, to incrementally move toward paying a share of what the town of Wellington pays for to provide ambulance service there.
All right, I didn't understand the amendment. That's fine. Did he get a second?
I second.
You're not voting.
You know.
Well, Stephanie, well, Christina didn't say she was ready yet.
Christina's here.
I mean, I would prefer to just, since I missed the whole thing and not really sure what you're saying, if to step in after this is
Okay.
over.
To do what?
She's gonna step in after this is over.
Okay,
This-
okay.
So my
we'll just
second
let
count.
Ryan Step in, yeah, except that it was already seconded by James.
Okay. Any further discussion before we vote?
So now we're gonna have the argument of where you're not supposed to go into individual line items, but we are.
Yes.
It's space, it's the,
Sorry.
it's, they can do what they want to do in the end, you know, as with any
Yes.
department that's a transfer out department. This is what the thinking is. This is what it's based on. So,
Can I just ask what the number is, because I'm sorry, with everybody going back and forth. I have no idea.
it's 5,000, it's 588,172. From, down from the 664, 468. Okay. So we didn't take that dollar up. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Do you want to do a roll call? Sure. Since it's hybrid, although I think I could tell the voices.
Jim M.
Aye.
Joe,
Yes.
Jeff,
No.
Peter,
No.
Lisa,
Yes.
Steph,
Yes.
So now we have to vote on the five.
So now we
voted
vote
to
on the
amend it.
transfer.
Now we vote on the transfer.
You want me to make the motion
Sure.
since you're diabolical?
Well, the motion's already been made. The number's been changed, so all we have to do now is vote on the new number, not
Right,
voted on the amendment.
okay. I move to accept the budget request for transfer, for 004 transfer out for ambulance PR for $588,172. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
What do we do since Jeff?
I'm sorry.
What do we do since Jeff stepped out for a second?
Oh, yeah. Let's wait. Thank you for asking that.
The number you just used.
588, 172.
What is that percentage-wise?
They first voted to amend it, now they're voting the actual transfer.
Jeff, say aye. Aye. There we go. I move to accept budget item request for 0000. Let's start over. I move that we accept the budget request for 004, transferred out to Wyndham Fire Department 1 for $168,150.
Wellington.
Fire Department 1, WFD 1.
Second.
Discussion? That number in the motions is not inclusive of the adjustment they made. They went down from 168, 150 to 166, 150 by cutting the maintenance for the second ambulance.
Let me remake the motion then. Is that right, Chief?
3,000 less than what you.
All right. I move that we, I changed the motion to accept the budget request for 004, transfer out for WFD 1 for 166, 150.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that we accept the budget.
Wait. Was there opposed? Abstention? Okay,
I thought I heard everybody say yes. That's why I
Sorry.
jumped the gun on you.
Go
I
ahead.
apologize.
go ahead.
I move to accept the budget request for 004, transfer out for Winklington Hill Fire Department for $146,750.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions?
That concludes emergency services. Fund transfers. I move to accept the budget.
Wait, Erica, did you have something?
Yeah, I've asked the board if they would be willing to revisit 171 planning zoning.
Oh, sure. No. It's halftime.
No scores, no updates.
Okay, so Jim, do you want to recast what your recommendation is?
No, but I will try. So I suggested reducing the number by $24,387 for a total of $121,000 for the total budget amount. And then given that this, we no longer as of Tuesday have, the assistant land use agent as of Tuesday has resigned. I know it's not effective yet, but will be shortly. And given the prior discussions and my prior discussions related to this budget being significantly greater than I think is warranted by a town of this size. Again, comparing Ashford, for example, is 51,000 and change. Suggest that we use this as an opportunity to evaluate and solicit for, see about evaluating the overall structure of the department to see if there is a more cost-effective solution that provides the similar or equal services. That $24,387 reduction is essentially the, I think I moved the dollar around, but it's that land use budget number minus $21,000. $6,000 of that brings is meant to bring the Tyke policy and planning group contract amount up from the 42 that was reduced when we got an assistant land use agent to provide benefits for that person. So it would bring that, it would allow that total, should that be the direction this town ultimately decides to go, to be back up to 48,000, and it affords $20,000 for document retention should it be needed. Alternately, it allows for the opportunity to solicit for a full-time land use agent at a salary that might be commensurate to get a qualified individual at a full-time position. So it affords the flexibility to give the town the opportunity to actually look at a budget that is the request is $145,387, which is very inflated in my opinion for a town of this size in this need. So that is the summary of the proposal. And I know we wanted to hear from Mr. D'Amato. So
before we discuss the amendment, should we have a second on it? Just curious. I assume, James, that you're proposing that we amend the original one.
Proposing we amend, yes, because we were already in.
So we need a second for the amendment.
Is there a second? I'll second for the purposes of discussion with Mr. D'Amato.
Okay, not quite sure where to begin. The Ashford budget, for example, for P and Z is $55,000. I know that because I wrote it. That covers my position and the mailings and dues associated with the commission. The staff there is paid out of the building department budget. So their budget between building, zoning, and wetlands, which they contract separately, is $10,000 higher than ours, not lower. We also pay for a permit system, which they do not have. Arguably, Wellington has significantly more commercial development and activity than Ashford. I could provide you with the permit numbers if that would be helpful. Frankly, I think it is not at all what the charge of this board was designed to do, to say, I think there may be other options, so let's go ahead and cut now, because there might be another option. Cutting with the rationale that we can basically celebrate Chris leaving the town and use his resignation as a way to disguise what this is just, I don't know how else to continue to speak to this.
And with respect, Mike,
can I just finish, please?
No, because if you're going to condone and put words in my mouth about this being a celebration of somebody leaving this department, that is just nonsense.
That's what it feels like.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
You weren't suggesting it until we knew that he was leaving. This solution didn't exist until a couple of days ago.
I suggested, every meeting we've discussed this budget, I've suggested reducing this budget. I see this as an opportunity to do so. I'm not gonna have a-
Yeah, I don't want to have, so can I just kind of finish where I was trying to go?
Yeah, finish your case, because I don't.
Yeah,
want to do this.
trust me, I don't want to either. So I just looked it up right now. The going rate for a certified planner in New England that has less than 3 years of experience with just a bachelor's degree, median salary is $88,000. That's the going rate. So $88,000 plus your benefits and all those other things. It's about $2,000 a year for zoning certification, which they need to have. It's $2,000 a year for AIC certification on top of obtaining those. So those are all increased costs. Fundamentally, again, you know, there's all of the I guess the rationale of what you're supposed to do and what parts of the budget you look at, and that's beyond me. What I don't understand is when people that are not me come here and advocate for a budget over and over again. There have been no increases proposed. I have generated no increased costs over 5 years. I reduced my contract costs without reducing services to provide benefits to a position that was being paid pennies. Have trained Chris, I trained the previous zoning person, who's now the planner in Vernon, by the way, right? So
I guess we did a good job when she was here. We have implemented GIS, online permitting, we have done document scanning, we have done many, many things at the same cost for 5 years. Meanwhile, every other cost has gone up. Why, if for not some other unnamed reason, does it make any sense to look at a budget? The Planning and Zoning Commission, in conjunction with other department or boards and commissions, elected to hire me, or CME at the time, not Erica, not anybody else. This was not, we submitted an application and we went through a process, and it was determined by the folks that have ownership of this budget that this was the way to go. They then came here and loudly advocated that they felt it was still the way to go. And now what we're doing is sitting here and saying, well, let's reduce this budget, and we'll cut this person, and we'll reduce staff and create single points of failure in the department. To what end? We didn't come here with a problem. I can't track the rationale here. If the answer is that someone or multiple people or everybody doesn't like me, then there's nothing I can do to give you more information on that. But it's disheartening to feel like for the last 5 weeks, I've had to come here and constantly represent the work that the office has done. And there's really there's nothing that has started this conversation. It is not a secret that Jim and I have had not seen eye to eye since the warehouse project. And I would add that a 2-year planner with no experience making whatever the town's gonna pay them, dealing with an application like that and the nuts and bolts that need to occur, whether everybody agrees or not, is not something that can be thrown to anybody. If Chris were here, I'm sure he'd tell you that he would not have done that on his own. There's a significant lift that needs to occur for that, things that we need to plan for and we need to understand. $100,000 a year position is pretty cheap when you consider the costs of running into a court with Haller and Sage, because the commission has made a decision that we now need to litigate, like was the case with TA.
Right.
I can tell you that in Ashford, the building department admin is paid solely out of the building department budget. She has been there not even 2 years and makes approximately $10,000 more than Peggy, who's been in the department over 13. They have significantly better health benefits. They contract their wetlands department separately. So it's a separate $15,000 cost and a separate person who provides no in-office hours. They contract with Bolton just like they do here. So I'm not quite sure how comparing us to Ashford is a rationale to propose significant decreases in a budget which has been held flat. Even through COVID, when we went with a 0 and a reduction, I cut from there. We did not propose increases.
Right.
Me sitting here, again, not costing the town money. Under a traditional position, that costs the town through comp time or overtime or whatever those union requirements are. So that person sitting here answering those same questions is running the meeting, even if they're on the budget, because the union is going to require that person be paid. So unless somebody here is an expert in municipal staffing, land use planning, or creating, a more efficient land use department, I can't give you the information because it doesn't exist.
Thanks, Mike. I'd like to ask for Erica to weigh in, because this is under your purview, and I don't disagree with the idea that that this is an articulated plan that goes beyond what the Board of Finance normally does. We have new members looking at many things and aggressively looking at several things. This is not the only case being made. Jim?
If I may,
and then I'd like to
just,
talk to you.
yeah, and then Eric can jump in. I just want to say, Mike, respectfully, you're the one that just made this personal. I have not questioned your work, but your work ethic or the performance of the department. You insinuating that here, that's fine, but it's inaccurate, quite frankly. And I will disagree. No, excuse me, sir. I will disagree with you about zoning policy, and I'll do that in front of the PZC. This is a budgetary discussion, and I'm questioning the budget. That's all I'm doing, because I see a budget that, quite frankly, I personally believe is more than this town needs. And that's all,
Okay.
you know, we'll go from there.
Thanks.
Thank
Jeff?
you.
So to your point, and I'm not taking a side here, right? This is coming from a person that feels that zoning is unconstitutional anyway. But let's just say, you know, hold on, we don't disagree on this. Yes, we did exist for more than a temporary solution without a.
Assistance.
I'm with you on that, Jeff.
We can't solve that
Land
tonight,
use.
Jeff.
So, right, and I'm all about, you know, it's a lot of money. Blah, blah, blah. This way, and I respect your research and your view. This is not the right way to do this, to save money.
And I appreciate that, so feedback.
Is there anyone else on the board? And then
I'm certainly not gonna get into the hiring discussion. That is not an issue before this board. And I'm not gonna go down that path. I think this is an inappropriate manner by which to determine the staffing uses, and it's not for this board to decide. We've been through that before. There have not been discussions about that. Had Chris not, in my opinion, had Chris not resigned, we wouldn't be having this discussion now. So I think the staffing in the budget that's been proposed from this department is exactly what this town needs out of this department. And I'll remind the board that the only increase outside of the contractual union increases in salary was that proposed project with the documentation downstairs. Otherwise, there would be no increase in this department.
If I may, what we have, Mike, there was a question about the document retention and the fee for that and the estimate that you just got. Mike?
I shared with you that it was $100,000 estimate that we had been
Oh, you
given.
said you didn't have the number. I just wanted.
No, I
to Mike
didn't.
got it.
I didn't remember how many documents were done. It was and that's an estimate too. Nobody counted the pages. But it's $100,000 was the estimate. But the minimum to do any one particular time was 10,000. So, you know, that certainly presents a challenge, but.
That's a question, based on that new information in regards to the documents, is this something we're going to be looking at later on down the road, or should we be looking to address this sooner?
You provide us with the funds and we'll do with it what we can. The longer they stay in the state that they're in, the longer I think the town is at risk to not be in compliance. And so, but I don't think anyone expected that particular cost. But, you know, speaking with Mike today, we're really, you know, ready to go out there and see how low we can get that number. But I don't think anyone's prepared to do, you know, even $60,000 in 1 year. And that's not at all what Mike proposed. He had always proposed we do it in little pieces. But, you know, I think it's something we could potentially look at with savings at the end of a fiscal year and see if that's something that the board is amenable to and take that up then. But I'll just share with you the information and, you know, you think what fiscally could be afforded.
Yeah, I think there's energy for trying to do it sooner.
I agree, but I didn't expect $100,000.
Can I just clarify? So.
Oh, wait. I have my hand raised.
I'm sorry.
I would like to move the question on this amendment. I'm done with this conversation. I'm sorry.
All in favor of moving?
Well, we need a second.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff.
There we go.
Second. All in favor of moving the question?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Christina, you're muted in case you didn't know. Because I can't hear you on,
Oh, yeah.
otherwise. we'll do a-
I'm here. I'm a yes.
You're ready to move the question too?
Yes.
You're officially in the meeting.
All right.
Yes.
So what we would be voting on is the amendment as stated by Jim Marshall for to take 24,387 out of the planning and zoning appropriation. All in favor of that amendment? say
Someone
aye.
have to second.
To do a roll, no, it was already second.
Okay, sorry.
You're gonna wanna do a roll.
Who
call.
was, yeah, oh, I seconded it, as-
That's right.
yeah,
Wow.
okay, yeah.
Losing track.
Sorry, short-term memory. All in favor of the amendment
Aye.
and all opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Any abstentions? Okay. Now, do you,
Do you want me to do a
now
roll call?
we'll, sorry,
Do you want me to do a roll call for that or just assume?
go ahead and do a roll call.
Jim M,
Is this on the prior one?
This is on your amendment, yeah.
I'm an aye.
Joe,
No.
Jeff,
No.
Peter,
No.
Christina,
No.
Stephanie.
No. Thanks. Okay. So now we will vote on the transfer, I mean, the appropriation. You've already made the motion.
I already made the motion.
But do we need to repeat it, or can we just go with the
So there was a motion and a second already.
second motion and second? So let's just
Because
revert.
we tabled it, we should probably reread it.
Okay,
No, no more discussion.
go ahead, Pete.
The motion is to accept the budget request for
0171.
0171 planning and zoning for 145,387. The original motion was seconded by Jeff, I believe.
Second,
We're all set again.
We're all
Yeah.
seconded.
Okay.
All we have to do now is vote. I think.
okay, all in favor? Hold on.
Aye.
Oh,
It was
Either me or
Lisa.
All right.
she's not seated now, so.
It's all right. It was already, it was seconded, but it was seated. So
We're good. It's all good.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Me.
Any abstentions? I guess we need a roll call.
Jim M,
No.
Joe,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Christina,
Yes.
Stephanie.
Yes. Motion carries.
Okay.
Okay, where were we?
I think we're.
I'd love to see that.
Thank you, Mike.
I move that we accept the, I got a hearty yes. I caught you out of the corner of my eye. I move to accept the budget request for 004, transfer out for Park and Rec for $94,672.
Second.
There we go.
Okay, discussion.
There's a letter, right?
There's a letter, and from Joe Colangelo to me by email, really, today, and we had been talking about taking or basically applying 10,000 of the fund balance that Parks and Rec has. They have 50,000 fund balance from 2022, and some of that is already earmarked. So the thought was we would move that fund balance over to offset, to you know, make a spending decrease. But I think I think one of the things that we talked about doing was, and Mr. D'Angelo made this case, to apply the 10,000 that we were going to take from the fund balance to the administrators or the director's salary, because we are in a position of he has stepped down, and part of the reason that we've had a lot heavy turnover in the Parks and Rec director job is because the salary is at a pretty low level for a full-time director of the department.
Sorry, this 94, is that the minus the 10 that was requested, or is that with the 10 that was requested?
That's what they asked, that does not include fund balance.
All right.
Donna, refresh my memory. Would we appropriate what's in there now, or would we appropriate 84? 672 if we wanted to do applying it to the director's pay in the budget.
I think if you leave it the way it is, it would
Yes.
adequately give you funding
Because you are,
to increase that.
you want to increase the expenditures, correct? Because you want to increase the wages by $10,000. So the wages are going to be $53,993. So that means now that you are going to need, instead of $96,552, you're going to need 10,000 more, right? Or 106, 522.
Wait, I'm confused
How are
about
we
your
being
number.
94,672 here?
Yeah, it's what we have on our budget motion is
Oh, sorry,
94.
wrong column. Okay. I'm in the wrong column. Yep, 94,672 is the request. You're gonna need 10,000 more. So that number is gonna be 104,672. You're gonna offset it with 10,000 from fund balance, so it's gonna be 94,672.
We are right where.
So we can still move just the way it is.
Yes, just the way it is.
Okay, is everyone in agreement? Because,
Yeah, I think, Steph, I think this board supports our Parks and Rec program. We see the value in it. And you're hearing both the director and myself saying, we need to be able to be competitive in this market. And in order to do so, I believe the 94,000, if you leave that request exactly where it's at, will accomplish that. At least a start.
what Mr. Colangelo was, what the case he was making was, he's talking a lot about the Parks and Rec board being, giving of themselves and building this up over time, and he gave some history about it. But it does appear that, I don't think anyone here is thinking that Parks and Rec does not play a major role in the life of the town. And also that someone coming in new would be in a good position to re-energize programs that have fallen victim to a pandemic. I thought he made an eloquent case. It's not something that didn't occur to us. It was a solution that made some sense. But I want to hear what the discussion is on the board for this idea. And what you think. Is everyone are you following the money?
Yeah, I agree with what Joe said here,
Yeah.
but money also is not the only reason to stay in a job either, so there's a lot of other factors.
That's true, but it's
major reason. It is, and if I could, it's a position that is really a single point of failure. There is an assistant that is there 10 hours a week, certainly not enough to pick up the baton and run with it and have a full understanding of how a department runs by any stretch. So when you don't have a director, you're left almost at a standstill. And the fact that, our salaries have been so low made us not competitive. It's why we had an amazing Parks and Rec director pre-COVID and leading us into COVID and left a community she loved and the job she loved, making considerable more. And in order to attract someone with a skill set and a background to be able to help this program continue to thrive, we need to be able to fund that.
Thank you. Okay.
Steph, can I just make one point?
Sure.
Which I totally agree with all this. I just want to point out that if the position's now empty, and it's probably going to be empty for some weeks at least, and this is how the fund balance grows, right? The money's not going to get spent, and then it's going to end up growing the fund balance. So at the end of this fiscal year, it's going to be that much higher. So just from not paying salary for a few weeks. So now I'm not saying we should cut it, but I think we should just be aware that that's how this happens and how it did grow over the years just by not spending it. So that's
Yeah,
all.
that is a concern. I'm not sure that the Parks and Rec board understands fully how fund balance works as far as that goes. Unspent transfer out to an entity doesn't mean that it's still taxpayer money, whether it's spent or not.
We are, there are some, certainly not the full salary, it won't be equal, but certainly an increase over the current assistant is willing to put in some more. And so our hope is to find an interim leading into a full position so that we can keep momentum going into the summer season. So there'll still be some salary left, but not the full amount, because instead of 10 hours, someone will be making more hours there. So the hope is not to grow that fund. And I know there are some necessary things that need to be done that I think haven't been done and spent out of that fund balance too. So making sure it's going to good use and not just sitting there accumulating, I think is Christina's point and a good one. I've spent the last week since our director left really combing through that budget and trying to see where everything is going and what we still need.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, how much
Let's-
is it going? How much does it increase per week?
What's that?
Yeah, I mean, you take this guy's salary, how much is it a week? I don't know. It's not a lot.
Yeah.
Just
Are you ready to vote?
I am ready to
I've never had a job, so.
Are you all ready to vote? Okay. So the transfer out to Park and Rec for 94,672. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
Move to accept the budget request for 004, transfer out for library for 297,006.
Second.
Now I'd like to amend that.
Okay. I think we're going. Yeah.
I could do that, but
Yeah,
that's.
nobody seconded it, so no one.
Stephanie seconded it. Stephanie seconded it. Yes. So I'd like to make that number 254,000. That's a 5% increase. I thought during their presentation, they were very confused as to they had combined the program director and the library director and the co-directors. It's assuming the job of program director into those co-director positions, and then forgot they had done that. So now they want to hire another program director. So that would be 3 people for 2 positions. And I think that they've got a lot of confusion on who they're paying overtime to salaried positions, et cetera. And so I'm thinking 5% is a more reasonable number.
So-
Do we discuss that or can we?
Well, wait. Is our-
I need a second to
I will
that.
second.
Okay.
So now we can
Yeah.
discuss.
Yeah, but could
I was
you
gonna
clarify
discuss.
first? I just want to be sure, what is it in dollars that you're recommending?
254,000.
Okay, so
It's a 5% increase instead of a 22.8% increase.
256. So that would be,
That keeps them up almost with the growth in the grand list and the growth in inflation.
so you're suggesting a $43,006 cut? Is that right?
I didn't
Did you-
I
is
didn't
that what
do
you
it
got?
from cut. I did it 5% up from the year before.
Okay, and are there areas that you're thinking of or you're?
No, I
okay.
think that they need to get control of what's going on there. I think that the library board is a little confused as to exactly what's occurring over there, and they need to get a handle on it. And the way to do that is to restrict some cash flow, and that tends to focus people.
Jim?
If I may, I'd like actually bring that down to 232,494. For a reduction of 64,500.
I think
64,512. And I can provide where I figure that's coming from, or where when I see.
you know, I think it's complicated to discuss both at once. If we could,
Sure.
if we could follow through on what Pete's idea is, and discuss that first, and then if there's, I just don't want, you know,
That is fair. I think that what I did was I just increased their budget by 5%, and that was based on grand list growth and inflation. And so that I didn't go heavily into depth on that. So I will take as a friendly amendment James's ideas here and change that number. How's that?
Well,
Well, I don't know.
no, I think we should move ahead with this discussion
All right.
first, and then Jim can talk about what else, you know, if
Sure.
this, let's move ahead with this. I don't, this is friendly amendments on top of friendly amendments.
Yeah. I apologize.
So, Christina, Joe, Jeff, anyone want to weigh in on this?
I think he's too generous.
I think it should be more.
You know, on the one hand, this has been a mess for years, but I don't know how it got to be this way. I wish I could run into one of our former library directors randomly.
In a dark alley?
No. You know, have a cup of coffee.
Honestly, I
You know,
think,
the idea to bring it back to a good functioning entity, it's great. Co-directors, I mean, their presentation, do we ever hear from the other co-directors? It was just
well, we didn't hear
just didn't
the,
seem very organized, or I don't know how that, I know the argument for it.
I mean, I was thinking when
I
I.
can't tell if it's worse or better. Technically, it's less money than one person, but is it better?
Right. It's, what, co-directors is less money? I don't think it is.
Well,
No, I think
they made the argument it was.
I mean, I don't think that was the case really. I mean, and then, you know.
No, I know that, just saying they made the argument.
Yeah, okay, that it was. I think, you know, when I was looking at this, I was thinking I was kind of stuck on the idea that the programmer was something that they said at the get-go that the co-directors would handle or would absorb by becoming co-directors and sharing the job to full-timers. So I, you know, I kind of went at the math that way, like the position for assistant to programmer was in the budget for, or is in the request for $18,012. And then I thought, apply some of the revenue to the budget from building fees, and patron fees and building use fees, you know, and put like a $5,000 revenue offset there. And then split the balance on the fund balance, and that came to within 5 of what, or within 7 or 8 of what Pete was recommending.
7 or 8.
Yeah, I mean, it was like
Dollars?
thousand. It was close. I mean, you were,
Give me more numbers.
your number, you just took it down to a percentage, so I kind of arrived more like by looking at what are the feeders and stuff. I think that's reasonable. I don't think, I mean, I do think they're growing programs. They obtained a grant that they're using to expand a couple of different programs to draw in young adults and to, they've got some some new children's play items for the library that require like maintenance and all kinds of stuff with them, that, you know, they're doing some things like that. I feel like they're trying to get the ship steered, you know, on course. I don't feel like,
I think you're right.
I mean, I don't really feel like
Like to see a.
flattening it out. I think that's, you know, I think that's, some of that is from a lack of knowledge about what they're up against, but I do know too that they have reserves and they're aware of that as well. I think, you know, I just think it's, I think that's a reasonable, I think your idea is reasonable.
Hey, I'm happy to hear it. Let's vote on
I know it's scary.
the amended amount and see how that goes.
What amended amount? Your amended amount?
My amended amount, the question.
Oh, yes, you moved that we transfer and then you amended your.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I amended it
I
and
remember.
then Jeff seconded both of those things. Are you?
Is there other discussion now?
Any more discussion?
Can I say something?
Yes,
Me?
please do.
Oh, no, I like where, I like everything that Steph just said. And, you know, and at the end of the day, we want them to be successful. We want to see things, things working the way they should be. And we also know that, there's some things that need to get fixed in that building, and we need to start, you know, making it possible for them to do the maintenance that needs to be done. So I'm not sure, because I can't really do the math from what I'm seeing on the screen here to the sheet, the detailed sheet, but I just want to make sure that they're going to be able to take care of the ongoing maintenance, and that line item isn't, and I know we can't do it by line item, but I think the message is that we need to take care of those things and make it possible to take care of those things, and do whatever we can to support the staff there so that they can be successful.
Christina, I think you're absolutely right, but the planning on the upkeep and repairs, et cetera, seems so vague and hazy when they came in here for their presentation. I wasn't sure where they were going with that, and I'm not sure that the numbers that they provided have any gravitas, any real anchoring in reality. I didn't get that feeling. That's why I'm making a kind of a blind assumption here, is because I thought they were giving us kind of a blind assumption.
I would agree, and I think the message back should be, I mean, I think it's taken them some time to, this was the first year that they participated in the CIP process, so there was a big learning curve there, and sort of things are just kind of rushed as we go through things. And I think if they know that the door is open, that if they can come back and ask for a budget adjustment, if they can make a case for it, I think if everyone else is agreeable to that.
That's true.
You know, I don't want people to think that, oh, it's October, so we can't take care of this one thing because, you know, we didn't get it in our budget. I think that they should know that they can come back, because other departments come back mid-year.
Well, yes, and they had, I mean, I think the library hasn't had experience with CIP largely because they've had a new building, the newest building in town, for several years. So it's like, they, you know, now they're, it's what, 17 years in, or not that far?
20.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, that's
16.
That's right.
Yeah. So, are we ready to move the question?
Yes, so moved.
Okay, second. Okay, now we have to, since you actually made it official. All in favor of moving the question on this?
Second. Aye. Oh, aye.
Aye.
All right, so the question now is, the amendment now is 254,000, right?
Yes, for the transfer. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Any abstentions?
Stay. I'll stand on that too.
Okay, we're gonna take a roll call then. We should probably start it out with a roll call.
Jim,
Abstain.
Joe,
Abstain.
Jeff,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Christina? Yes. Stephanie?
Yes. Four to oh, two abstentions.
That was 254,000.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
All right, moving on. Board of Selectmen. I move to accept the budget request for line item 0111 Selectmen for $163,860.
Second.
Okay. Let's see. So discussion?
Not
No
unless,
discussion?
not unless anybody wants to do Lee Iacocca.
Listen, this is where he was concerned about not advocating for anything more than what we. I mean,
You know where I'm going?
I know where you're going.
Come on, that's
Being a
fine,
wise
come on.
guy.
Okay,
Okay,
here we go.
okay, it's not bad, it's not bad. I give you points. I'm not hearing any discussion. Shall we vote?
Yes.
Okay. All
We're too old of a reference.
in favor of the appropriation for the selectmen of 163,860.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions?
I move to accept the budget request for line item 0130 accounting services for $289,916.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, call the vote here. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Abstain?
Move to accept the budget request for line item 0134 assessor for $134,639.
Second.
Is there discussion? Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
I move to accept the budget request for line item 0137 revenue. Oh, is that the one I just did?
No.
Revenue collector for $95,760.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I move to accept the budget request for line item 0141 town council for $32,000.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, town council in this instance is the lawyer.
That's the lawyer.
Got it.
Lawyer. It's
I-
land use,
I keep thinking town council, like,
we don't have a town council.
I know we don't, and that's why I wonder why
It's
we're paying for it.
council, not council.
All right.
SCL.
SEL, not a.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, okay, we're gonna vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Abstention?
I move to accept the budget request for 0151 town clerk for $119,020.
Second. Oh, you did it. Any discussion? Okay. Christina?
Yes.
Did you have any discussion?
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Pete.
All,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
all opposed? Abstentions? Okay, Jim, do you want to make a wisecrack in between?
No, I actually just want to see if that 289, the next line item before Peter makes a motion, that is the 289,198, does that include the 16,100 for the computer expense we talked about last?
No, it does not. So it would, I don't think it does. Let me see.
We gotta make a motion before we
Wait.
discuss it.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I move to accept the budget request for line item 0181 town office operations for $289,198.
Okay, second.
Now we have a question. Jim?
Yeah, it isn't, that is
Can you wait just a
including,
minute?
Sorry.
that is including the one-time project.
So that
That's
has, the
stuff.
six- so
That
that
is
that
correct.
includes the 16.
This was the request from the
Yep.
department.
Okay, so I know some of these have been,
Wait. So,
These numbers are the request of the department. Since your board has taken no action, what goes in there is the request of the department. until such
right,
time change.
so with the tweak, it would be 273,098.
correct.
Okay. Well, it's
We-
not a tweak really. It's taking 16,100 out of a computer,
Well, you just taken
service.
16,000 out.
It's taking 16 out. Yeah, right. Right.
So do we need to amend that number?
I would
16,100? What do you mean?
Let's vote.
withdraw the motion and we'll make
Withdraw
a
your
new-
motion, withdraw your.
I'm sorry, what?
withdraw the motion, we can make a new one for the adjusted amount.
I withdraw the motion.
That's what I was
Okay.
trying to get at, but it's not being met.
All right, so what's the new number?
273,198.
273,098. Thank you for trying to stop me, Jim.
Sorry, I probably made it more complicated. I'm just,
No, you did not. So I move to accept the budget request for 0181 town office operations for $273,098.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention?
Move to accept the budget request for 0182 town hall operations for $7,958.
Second.
Let's see.
No, we didn't. What?
We did
Town
We
hall
did
op-
town office operations.
And then we did town hall operations.
Town hall. No, just town.
It just
I
says
checked
town
you.
hall.
So that's the old town hall.
Yeah.
Which is just the town hall.
It's the town hall. But it's so much that don't we call it OTH though on all the documents?
Well, there's no new town hall.
Okay.
This is the TOB.
Any further discussion about what we call our, jewel in the crown on the green? Okay. Okay. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Extensions? Okay.
Move to accept the budget request for line item 0183 consulting engineers for $15,000.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstentions?
Move to accept the budget request for line item 0185 senior center operations for $49,508.
Second. Oh, go ahead, Joe. Joe seconded. I have an amendment on that one. They asked to double their maintenance, which was budgeted for, which has been 7,500. Their request includes another 7,500 for a total of 15,000. And we discussed, we discussed with Erica about the, reducing that to 2,500, reducing it by 2,500. So the total would be $47,008.
I'll second the amendment.
Okay.
Can I comment?
Yes.
That increase was built on a number of known issues with the building and repairs and maintenance that need to be done. So I caution you to be short-sighted in maintaining your buildings. I've been in many talks about how we have not been able to adequately fund things that we don't know. They gave a pretty concise list of known items. So, you know, hopefully the maintenance could be done so that they don't get to a much larger repair than we're prepared to spend money on. Is it a large increase for their budget? Yes. It is a relatively small amount of money. Their initial $7,500 budget, half of it is taken up with just annual, and I'm gonna say maintenance. It's the check on the fire panel. It's the check on the smoke, fire extinguishers. It's the check on their systems. It doesn't account for any repairs. They had one repair that used the remainder of their budget. And they were thoughtful in actually needing to account for the additional increase in their funds this year, and cutting that, I think, leaves us right back where we start, where we know we have issues and we're not gonna be able to pay for them.
So let me cut that down to 2 sentences.
Yeah.
You don't want us to take out the
I don't think
$2,000.
so. I think this isn't a case where.
No, that's,
Yes, Peter, because I don't, normally it's,
that's
we
what I wanted
think
to
we
know.
might have
All right.
something else.
Yeah,
They're
no.
saying, this is what we got.
got it. That's, I just try to,
Yeah.
if I can distill it
But
down
I
to 2
wanna-
sentences in my head, then I can make a
Okay, I
decision.
just want to make sure, you know, I'm justified, I'm not saying to you, I think we might have some issues. They're saying, these are the issues we have, and we're working to get them fixed. But without the money, they're going to become larger issues. And then, you know, there's lots of discussion this time about what we aren't taking care of. And this would be the case to say, we have some things we need to fix, and the town not taking care of those knowns. And so I would encourage you to fund that.
You mean the whole 15,000 is already kind of headed in a specific direction?
Or they've given us some known things, but they're not large enough repairs that they would qualify. They would send them to CIP. So they're following the process the way it's designed to be, and they're regular maintenance things. In a building that's 20 years old, we're starting to see some things that don't need to be fully replaced, but they're gonna have some repairs on them and need to be done. And so those are known items.
It seemed like it was a.
See ya. Wish I was you.
Seems.
You're a volunteer.
Seemed like a large hit. I don't know if there's, you know, in 1 year, so that's.
But it is, but Stephanie, we ask budget writers to come to us with what they know. Sometimes it's this is what we think is going to happen, or think we know. This is a known list. And we know that amount of money won't cover everything, and work through some of those and how we can do some of that now and use support from other areas. But I'm saying lack of funding this is going to lead to, could lead to a larger issue if we can't repair it. And then we're back to deciding, we only have so many dollars, where do we put them?
Christina, did you have a thought on this, or it sounded like you were saying something. Lisa?
Oh, no. I don't have a thought on it.
Okay. So,
You want to vote the amendment first?
sure,
Was there a second on the amendment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
To the,
which would be, they're requesting 15,000 overall, for maintenance, and this cut would bring that down to 12,500. So those are the numbers that we were talking about. So we'll vote on the amendment. The amendment is to cut 2,500 out of that. All in favor? Yes. All opposed?
No. No.
Okay. Abstentions? Okay. And let's vote for the transfer.
No, I need to roll.
You voted yes.
It wasn't a unanimous vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's getting late.
Jim,
No.
Joe,
No.
Jeff,
No.
Peter,
No.
Christina,
No,
Stephanie?
Yes. Motion. Okay, so do you want to restate the transfer or not? I think we're good enough to go ahead.
We're good enough to go ahead.
Okay, so the transfer amount is 49,508. All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? 6-0.
Moving on to page 2. I move to accept the budget request for line item 0233 Health District for $32,450.
Second.
Discussion?
More or less the bill.
Okay, yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
I move to accept the budget request for line item 0235 fire main and hydrants for $8,626.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Oh, wait,
Just
we
do
have
it.
someone.
Just do a roll call.
Joe,
Yes.
Jeff,
No.
Peter,
No.
Christina,
Yes,
I forgot about this.
Wait for Jim to come back.
And then I can vote.
Or
am I skipping?
No, we're waiting for him to come back. But you can ask me. Oh, you do? No, you don't.
I thought the chair had to be last.
No.
you could.
Doesn't matter.
She's saying she's willing to vote. I think she's willing to vote.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yes. Oh, this could be one of those things.
Now, Jeff has to say yes.
No, because, oh, yeah, it might be one of those things, depending on what he says when he comes out of the bathroom. James, you have the deciding vote. Aye. There we go.
Fire main and hydrants,
Pass.
8,626. Do you
Yeah,
vote?
yeah, no,
Did you say, okay.
Thank you for waiting.
He doesn't know the controversy.
Oh, sorry. Did I actually miss that?
Yeah, if you had voted no, we would have, the thing would have failed and we would have had to bring it back up. I move to accept the budget request for line item 0241 building official for $52,607.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
I move that we accept the budget request for line item 0311 public works for $1,415,145.
That's a big one. Second.
Discussion? I don't know.
Go ahead. Where are we at on vehicle patrolling?
That's
Well,
still up in the air right now.
That's, yeah, it is a separate issue,
Don't have any.
but it did not move ahead.
Might. They can put the money away.
Okay. Any other discussion? Christina, any thoughts?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, you ready to vote on this big one, or should we,
No, let's do it.
okay, this is a appropriation for $1,415,145 for public works. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Abstentions? Can I just make a comment? I thought that he went a large, one of the things I appreciated in this budget is the aggressiveness that Troy took to economize on some of the tree trimming needs that we had in town, or some of the tree work. And cut his budget by a pretty large amount to offset some of the road work that he's adding into it. So I think everybody on the board recognized that. Or a lot of people did.
And I'll also mention just that meeting with Eversource this morning, just kind of a quarterly meeting, and discuss vegetation management again, and how we can partner with them to continue to hit at that. So while they're out there, we can, get some additional costs with them to mitigate some of that. Always working to find cheaper solutions to the problem.
Move to accept the budget request for line item 0342 cemetery for $2,000.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstention.
Move to accept the budget request for line item.
It's okay.
Okay.
Just do a 5-0. Yeah. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Pete.
351 transfer station for $297,590.
Second. No. Is there discussion on the transfer station?
Thank God we have it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Abstentions?
Motion to accept the budget. You want to vote on the transfer station, Joe? Before I read the next line. Motion to accept the budget request for 004 transfer out for capital reserve for $460,000.
Second. Any discussion?
I always mix those up. Oh. Yeah.
This is CIP. Is that what you mean? Okay. Christina, any discussion? I just want to be sure.
No, I just want to point out, this is a place where we could increase if we didn't want to put all of the shock absorber money, if we didn't want to put that all in Fund 3, we could put some of that in here, but it's not needed for the known things that are on the CIP plan. So that's,
yeah.
I think if we leave all the shock absorber in one line item, it makes it more transparent for the
absorbent.
people.
more absorbent.
Yeah, more absorbent. To fly. Okay. So, yeah, I agree with that. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay,
Sorry, I was an eye on that too. I
thanks.
Expected myself.
I thought,
Move to accept budget request for 000, start again. I move to accept budget request for 004, transfer out for handicap van fund for $1,000.
second? Discussion? All in favor?
Where's this one?
For the handicap
Handicap
van,
van.
it's sort of a,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Do we need further discussion about that? I mean, can you?
Tradition is that you pass through $1,000 for the seniors. And there's a capital project and they spend it on van maintenance or trying to save up for a new van.
Perfect.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I move to accept the budget request for 004, transfer out for housing authority for $2,182.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I suggest we move,
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
I suggest we move the next one down and they look like it again.
That's fine with me.
That's fine
Is
by
it okay
me,
with you
too.
guys?
What I'll do is I'll
Consensus,
just skip
or-
over it and then we'll pretend that it's at the bottom. I
Okay,
move to accept the budget request for O004, transfer out for dog fund for $26,835.
second.
Say aye for the puppies.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention?
Move to accept the budget request for O004, transfer out for human services for $68,404.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention, okay.
Move to accept the budget request for O004, transfer out for open space for $25,000.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Move to accept the budget request for 0811 Social Security for $94,603.
Discussion? Oh, I'm sorry, second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention?
Move to accept the budget request for 0821 unemployment for $1,000.
Second.
All, is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
Move to accept the budget request for 0831 employee insurances for $253,163.
Second. Thanks, Joe. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
I move to accept the budget request for 0841 pension for $57,924.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention?
All right, we're on to insurances.
Yes.
All right. I move to accept the budget request for 0851 insurances for $104,382.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
I move to
Opposed? Abstentions? Thanks.
I move to accept the budget request for 0871 miscellaneous for $2,000.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Abstentions?
I move to accept the budget request for 0910 debt service for $188,008.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention?
I move to accept the budget request for line item 0861 Board of Finance contingency for $15,000.
Second. Discussion? This is the
Do actually.
early voting.
So since we are contemplating the transfer out to the school project, I'd actually like to look at this a little bit jointly and suggest we essentially adjust that discussion and add funds in here to consider providing for a facilities director role that I know has been discussed in the Board of Selectmen to provide that funding should that be desired or discussed again further as a contingency. I don't know what that might have been discussed. I don't know what value was contemplated previously. I'd suggest even up to $100,000 on that, carving out of whatever we might consider for the other one, for the other value as something that this town needs. May look to need looking forward into the future with all of things like senior center or whatever the school becomes, or the fire stations, or managing all of that for the town coherently so that we can effectively and inform the CIP moving forward. I don't know, I want to raise the idea. Again, I'm not sure if this is the appropriate place, but I think given the discussion we're going to have next, I think it's a valuable potential carve out.
I'm not sure that the contingency fund is a place to put payroll. This is more of a anticipated unexpected expenses line. Kind of like when we had the teacher retirement fund fiasco under the last governor. I think that this is where we need to put the 15,000 for the early voting, but I'm not sure this is where we put the money for the paid position.
It's also the early voting's a probability
Is
in
high.
one shape or another. I don't think that's a big thing, but I would also say, Jim, because I think there's, broad spread, quite a bit of support for the idea of a facilities manager, and I heard the first select woman talk about it, but I would not do that as a component of last minute, discussion for an appropriation. I think there's a lot of discussion that goes around that, and the way that's such a big, that's a big position, and how it's addressed. I mean, I don't think it should begin at this board on appropriation night. But
if I could,
Yes.
I appreciate the sentiment. I think it's incredibly needed. If you heard me speak about it multiple times over this budget season, it was, I fully intended to ask for this. I didn't intend to have a budget that was, that began, close to 13%, whittled down to 11, and then down to 8, which is still significantly high. And not sure, where to cut to offset that, and whether or not there was an appetite for that sort of increase. I think it's incredibly valuable. I think it's needed. I couldn't give you a solid number right now. There's a job description. So in my opinion, some of those funds would go unspent because I don't know that by July 1 we'd be ready to move with that. And I would hate to ask taxpayers to pay for funds that we weren't prepared to move on. Certainly, if that's the discussion after this meeting and a budget hearing that wanted to be added back in somewhere, we certainly would ramp up those discussions and move forward with that, and I support that, and I appreciate the support. So if you want to amend a place in the budget where it goes at some point before this process is over, I think the Board of Selectmen would be open to that discussion, because I think it's incredibly valuable and needed, and we see that.
Thank you. I'm the new guy. And unfamiliarity. So, sorry, where do we stand before I said that?
15,000 for in the Board of Finance contingency as a placeholder for impact on the registrars for early voting.
So the only other question I have then is, are we sure 15,000 is enough?
No,
I know.
No,
It's,
we're not.
so is this going to be an extra request down the line anyway? Probably.
I think they address that. There are
they don't
multiple
know.
bills with multiple dates. One says town referendums and primaries and one doesn't. So I think they give you like the best guesstimate they could.
I think their costing out is presuming 10-day early voting, but they're still
It's like
discussing,
10,000 in a bag or something.
yeah.
So-
And they're pretty careful with the way they do this. They did not factor the registrar stipends into their costing out, and that's what prompted us to go up the additional $5,000 as a placeholder. Am I recapping this correctly?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay,
We asked them a number of times to make a guesstimate, and they couldn't even come close, so I took a shot in the dark, and that's what we're going with.
okay. Okay, so calling for the vote on the appropriation of 15,000 for to the Board of Board of Finance contingency fund. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All opposed? Abstention. Okay,
It's the first big one.
yeah,
I move to accept the budget request for the Board of Education for $9,151,473.
second. Okay, this is the one that the Board of Ed and the superintendent got down to 0.85% increase year over year, which is the lowest I recall. You know,
Our neighbors in Stafford are at 6.3, which is pretty average right now.
who did?
Stafford, one of those.
Stafford did?
Yeah, but that's about average.
Yeah.
There's a lot
Yeah.
higher.
So it was a different budget year for talking about education and everything. Okay, is there other discussion about this? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Abstention? Oh, what?
No, I couldn't find my glasses.
Oh, I thought you were like, wait.
Oh.
I was like, oh, me. Okay, so now we're gonna go back
We're
to,
going back to, I move to accept the budget request for O004, transfer out. CP school project, $1 million.
second,
This is the buffer.
this is, yes, this is the shock absorber idea. You know what I was gonna ask you, do you think it's a good idea, Donna, to put the calculator up for this one? Christina?
Right here.
Okay, and yeah, so do we know what the total adjustments downward on the budget are?
$137,402.
Or starter.
Okay, and let's see, so the Christina model, I mean, you know, it sort of showed it coming out and then going back in, so it kind of canceled itself out. But the idea of the 1 million in Fund 3 for to sort of plan ahead for a big expense one way or another with the schools, either you know, depending on what the referendum finds, either for K-8 or for a large amount of repairs in shorter order. So the idea was to, because we have a $3 million and 44,000 fund balance, that we would take $1 million of that now, put it over, because we're having a year where where the picture looks pretty good otherwise. So that together, we thought that made sense and might be something that we do in the next few years or subsequently, if it works that way, and if the numbers are in our favor to do that, to make a difference, because of course, a couple of years out, or really pretty shortly, the CIP plan will not work for some of those big ticket items that we see in our future. So, Christina, did you want to mention anything else about this? topic?
No.
Okay, not yet. Okay. So what I wanted to,
Can I just ask a question, and it's just a process question? Will that money be earmarked for a specific cause through this process? How does that work? If you put money into that fund.
Yes.
And the board in this process earmark, that's their authority to earmark within that fund?
as part of the.
I think there's an
appropriation.
intention of what that money should be from. What's the process to make sure that happens is my question.
Right. We thought, I mean, we just were thinking, schools project, or the schools projects in a generic form, so it would be, it would head toward whatever schools.
Right, but Stephanie, I think that we have to make sure this money goes to the Board of Finance and not to the Board of Education, or we're gonna run into big
No, it
problems.
doesn't go to the Board of
What are you
Education.
talking
My
about?
question, there's a process for how those funds are earmarked. Can the
Right.
Board of
Yeah.
Finance just unilaterally earmark funds within those? Is there another process, just, and I'm asking
Well,
process wise,
it's
because I'm
really part of the CIP process. This is a CIP item, and we're just kind of backing into it, but if we did it correctly from the beginning, this would be in CIP. Then it would be marked transfer to capital projects, school project.
Okay, so to my question, is there another process to make sure that happens? Because the CIP plan is a separate plan, and making sure, is there another kind of voice that needs to happen between CIP and the Board of Selectmen's plan to solidify that's what those funds are for within that plan? And then, so I'm just asking as a matter of process, because it wasn't ever discussed. This particular discussion didn't ever happen at CIP. Or the Board of Selectmen who approved that plan. So I just want to make sure that your intention for those funds can actually be seen through. That's all. I'm not saying I don't agree with it. I just want to make sure that we don't, it doesn't miss a step in the plan, because the plan is approved at town meeting. And how does it get onto the plan?
We, as far as motions go, this is a simple transfer motion.
This is part of the general government budget.
Right,
So-
right.
So you don't need a motion. What you need is appropriation from the taxpayers, and that is going to come when this question goes to the taxpayers. Shall the town spend $6,899,000 on, shall the government, on general government? And so it's in there, and that's how you get your appropriation. So there's no motion for a transfer. It's part of the FY24 budget.
Can I ask a follow-up to that? So there's no motion to transfer it in, but 3 years from now, if we need to take it out to help cover a bond payment, that would just be part of CIP as well, right?
I don't believe, once it's in there and approved for that purpose, and you don't need a motion to take it out. You only need a motion to take money out of reserve, not out of capital expenditures.
I thought you needed a motion for anything over $10,000 anyway.
Yeah, don't you go to town meeting and.
Yeah.
If you want to, that is an additional appropriation, 10,000 or more out of your budget. Then you need to go to town meeting to spend an additional appropriations.
So and again, understand what you're trying to do and how you get at it. I'm just concerned that it's not part of the CIP plan, the approved CIP plan. How does it get there so that it stays in there for its purpose and it's.
I think you're absolutely right. I think we've got the right idea, but we don't have the process right yet.
I think there's probably just an additional step from CIP and maybe Board of Selectmen, because then you take that plan and it gets voted on at the annual town meeting, and this appropriation is part of the whole budget. So I think, I just feel like there's kind of a step missing to solidify what it is you're suggesting.
Yeah, it sounds like the CIP plan just needs to be adjusted with it in it.
Can that be adjusted after the appropriation, or does it need to be adjusted before the appropriation?
Before, because it gets approved at the town meeting. The budget town meeting.
Yeah, but if we approve it tonight, and then they figure out the.
Oh, yeah, I think that could work.
I
think the only problem is if CIP, right, you don't know how.
yeah, we don't know how it goes there, so.
Yeah.
I think in the weeks leading up to this process, you have a CIP meeting that then takes their plan back to the Board of Selectmen. I think otherwise we're skipping a process, you're adding money in, but it hasn't been attached to anything. As part of a larger plan, so I just want to make sure
Because
that.
we can't call it that. We can't designate it. Is that the
I think you
pitch?
can, but and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, you see it different. That the CIP plan is a whole plan we're asking voters to base on, and this money isn't in that plan. That I think you can add an appropriation. You have the authority to do that, but it's not part of a plan. It's separate from a plan. I think it's just sewing those things up. And that's why I'm asking the question.
So we can't do it?
I think.
No, but I mean, ever?
I'm not saying that. I think you need to do multiple parts, but I'm asking that. I'm not saying yes or no. I'm asking how it all.
No, you're making a lot of sense.
If you don't want to make it part of the budget, the second way to get the appropriation is to take it to the taxpayers and ask them if they want to transfer, they approve a transfer of $100,000 from the anticipated fund balance to capital projects, schools projects.
Except it's only a million, isn't it?
$1 million, yeah.
1 million.
Donna, couldn't they, let's say CIP met and there were some meetings between now and the budget hearing, they have a meeting after the budget hearing and make adjustments to the budget, correct?
Wait, how does that work?
At the hearing, you can make.
You can make,
budget
after
adjustments.
the hearing, you typically have a meeting and make any additional adjustments you want to the budget before it moves to the
Right, because
referendum
the
process. So I
referendum's
think
not
there's a
till
time
May.
to solidify all of that, if that's your intention and your hope.
That's
So
what
I'm
I
not saying it won't happen, I don't want to see
after
you make
this
something
budget
that
meeting.
misses a step somewhere.
Seems a bit of a stretch.
Except that it's something that we should have done 5 years ago. You know, I mean, and times are wasted regardless of what happens, so.
I just think that it needs to be put in the appropriate box with the appropriate safeguards of where.
No,
we're
you're
not-
right,
we're
you're
not-
right.
And if we don't have that planned out right now, and then I would have to vote no on that right now, but however, if we move this to the, all right, this is gonna sound strange coming from me. If we move that $1 million to the Board of Finance contingency fund, because this is not then we have a contingency coming up. We got a big contingency coming up. Whether this, regardless of how this referendum goes, we got a big contingency coming up. So the contingency could be a roof on the Hall School, or the contingency could be to absorb the shock of the funding the new school. Either way, it's a contingency. Well, that's essentially what we're going for anyways with this $1 million. This is a contingency against future expenses
In a year when we can do it.
in a
You
year
know.
when we can do it.
Right.
So it's a
At a time.
contingency, maybe it should be in the contingency fund. And then
But
then we have the ability to figure it out later.
Christina?
Would the contingency fund, though, if it doesn't get spent, which is, we don't want to spend it in the next year, it just goes back to the general fund at the end of the year. It's not, it's not gonna sit in this, savings account.
No, but we don't want to put it into a savings account that has no plan either. I don't.
Right, yeah.
So this gives us a year to figure out the plan.
Am I missing something though? Why would it be safer in the Board of Finance contingency than it would be in Fund 03? I mean,
Because there's no plan in Fund 03 and plan in the contingency.
except
fund.
except Fund 03 is specifically for capital projects. It fits there.
I think that Peter has a good idea. You could put it maybe in contingency, and then when you have a plan,
Move it to the,
transfer it to capital projects. That requires town meeting approval to move it to capital projects. But then you have more information on exactly
the process.
the process and the project.
It's buying us time to do the process, right?
Is there a way to do this just like by not doing it now, pulling it out and.
Yeah, that's what I
again,
was wondering.
Doing it direct, rather than have it sit on board. And honestly, then it's a contingency, conceivably, whatever, if our minds change a month, that contingency could go elsewhere, instead of what this goal is now. I do feel, I don't know, I'm nervous about it, honestly.
See, that's the thing is that you trust you or do you trust
So, can I-
somebody in the
Well, I'm
system?
just wondering if it should be, if we can make the process, like, add it to the CIP, like, do it the right way. And then have a special, or do it whatever way we need to logistically to make it happen.
If I could, let's say CIP were to meet and discuss this very issue, and then take their potential proposal and amendment to the plan to the Board of Selectmen. And then the Board of Selectmen, if they took action, and I'm assuming everybody votes in favor, right? May not happen, but if it did, then we're talking April 3rd, Board of Selectmen meeting. April 4th is the budget hearing. If they then bring as discussion during that hearing, this is what we recommend, knowing the discussion kind of started here, then right down after that hearing, they could make additional appropriations. Is that possible?
Yes.
So what, the Board of Finance would have a special meeting to do that?
No.
You always do anyway. You have the budget hearing, then you have a meeting after.
Or what, where we
It's
said that?
it's like it's a public hearing, that budget hearing. And then if people came out and spoke to your budgets and you made adjustments at your meeting after, you could make additional changes to the appropriations that you made. Right? Am I speaking correctly, Donna?
Yes.
And I just, again, I hear what you want to do and I understand that. I just want to make sure how that works in a CIP plan, because this money isn't in any plan. You're just kind of putting it into that pot of money. And does the Board of Finance, without any other process, can add to that plan and earmark it? Was my question, my initial question.
And there's more to the plan than just 1 year too. Because I was trying to figure out, if we want to make it be a steady line, assuming that it passes, and that we have this bond payment in 3 years. If we want to make it a steady incline, then we're going to probably need 750,000 next year. And then it'll take a couple of years to spend it down. But I kind of mapped out what one scenario would be, but we could talk about it at CIP, and map it out across the 5 years, basically. So.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of letting CIP on this, bringing it to Board of Selectmen, bringing it up at the town meeting, and then we could adjust after that, and we pass on this one right now. That would be my suggestion.
I would agree with that. I think it needs to be done right, so.
Me too.
It's too much
Yeah.
out there. already.
Thank you for bringing that up, Erica. We must hear why you're in charge. Okay, so can we just?
Adjourn?
Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about how the numbers play out, or?
Generally what we do.
Yeah.
And how much of the
general fund we put in.
right, right. So,
Yes, no.
so what I'm wondering
That's
is,
fixed.
I mean, what I was kind of thinking roughly that if, I'm thinking that we were gonna go ahead and do the $1 million tonight, but I was thinking, I kind of wanted to see what would happen with the trims we made, and what that would, if we didn't tap any more of the fund balance, since you know, that seems to be enough. But I know that that would mess with our percentage, right? I don't know. Anyway, I just wanted to see what that would do, because there's also some thinking that it might be wise to step up the mill rate somewhat to, you know, to not have it all hit in 1 year. Basically, that would be part of this strategy of looking into the future. So
It doesn't really hit all in 1 year, though. I mean, there is a.
no, I know.
Bond does.
It doesn't hit in 1 year, but the impact is, you know, like once you're through the notes, and the notes are significant too. That years 3 and 4 in a big bond are, you know, are hairier than others are. So if we, so you're putting that $1 million in, and then looking at what the impact is.
Yes, I'm taking $1 million out of the 3 million, so I'm
Okay.
thinking that if we apply, we're starting with 3 million, we apply 1 million for the shock absorber.
Right.
So now we have 2 million left for our budget. So I just thought I would make this 2 million, and then we go from there.
Okay.
Before we get too carried away, I have a procedural question, because he made a motion for that and you seconded it.
Oh, we gotta vote the table.
Yeah. So
Move to we table.
second.
Oh, yeah, we can just vote it down too. And then bring it back up again. That would probably be even a better idea.
Or just withdraw it.
Yeah.
Or just withdraw.
Could you
Let's
just
just
withdraw
withdraw.
it? And I agree. I think that's better. Okay, so, yeah, I'm just trying to,
So on $250,000 from the fund balance, it's a mill increase of 0.32 mils.
okay, but what would it be if we didn't take anything out of the fund balance? Well, you know, we're in the process, we frequently do use the fund balance to,
Oh, I see.
but I'm thinking, why would we do that? Why do we need to do that this year if the increase is between 0.5 and 1? You know, because we're gonna be stepping up one way or the other. I personally would rather see it happen in a gradual way. And I think it would be easier to deal with that way. And this is something, like I said,
You're also gonna get to a point where if you're gonna go above, at some point, you're gonna get above 32. Was it 32.6?
well, we're 31.27 now, so.
But
So the motor
the
vehicle,
motor, so yes, there's a cap on it.
yeah, we are under that cap.
I know, but I'm just saying, is we're all gonna be forward thinking.
A cap on what?
You can only, there's a cap on the motor
Explain this to me.
vehicle mill rate. I emailed that to you.
Yeah,
Oh, you did?
Yes.
so then as much as we anticipate collecting would not be.
So anyway,
Okay.
however, that kind of plays into the whole thing. State statute a couple of years ago, you can only cap at 32 point.
We were under, initially, we fell within that realm, and then they changed.
Well, yeah,
They changed the number, they increased the
Yeah,
number.
it was never.
So our mill rate was under that. So it was, you weren't fully funded the difference because it went on the year back.
It's probably gonna be moot after this. I mean, because, you know, we had to defer our, you know, our
It's
revals.
possible. I don't know what the reval will tell me, so I won't make any, I don't have a crystal ball, so I won't make any assumptions, but it could be right that the idea in a reval, typically you're able to.
Chances are that our valuations are gonna go up some even. I mean, they're not gonna be at the ceiling of the explosion, but.
Just taking out the million.
No,
for the shock
okay, thank
absorber.
you. So it's 32.45 or something?
For the shock absorber.
We don't know.
And not taking anything out of the fund
Okay.
balance. The mill rate is at 31.27 or 32.11. And what was it last year?
31.2.
So it's a 0.84. All right, I'm good.
I mean, do you?
You're good which way? How? I can leave this right here like this right now and I'm good.
Yeah, you don't decide it till after the.
Yeah.
Right, but it's like, it's just, it's like, we just kind of get the feeling, and there are other scenarios. You guys can play with that, with the gadget, but we need like a new total for spending after we did what we did tonight.
Yeah.
No, she's got it, but the thing I sent you is not, Donna could probably send us an updated one, so we can.
It's all good, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
We're all good.
All
We got all the
I'm
correspondence.
just like bringing you along here, come on.
I got the part that I need, so I'm good.
These guys are getting sassy.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
it's almost 10:30. Of course I'm getting
It's
sassy.
10:17.
Albania's already closed.
Okay,
Anyone?
anyone,
We had correspondence, right?
yes, we've got, you've got correspondence in your
No one,
packet.
we got all the correspondence, really? No one else corresponded with you?
That's it.
The auditors
Well, what do you
didn't-
mean?
Auditors didn't call you or anything, no?
Anybody want to
So
talk?
lately.
No, really?
The auditors
No,
calling me?
okay. No.
Have we beat everybody down so we don't have to do further?
You didn't get an email from the auditors?
We can do present to
Nothing
speak.
else, okay.
I think this is enough for one evening. Okay,
No
are
worries.
you guys, are you ready? Is that it? Okay, Christina, anything to add?
Nope.
Okay. So let's go down to present to speak. Peter, do you want to speak?
Matter of fact, Stephanie, I do.
Okay.
But I won't take long, because I want to see the highlights too.
I'm gonna watch the whole game, I think.
I do want to make a comment. Sadly, we live in a time when freedom of expression, First Amendment rights are literally under assault everywhere. And I'm very concerned about that impacting on town. It's important that I can talk to you now, or your board can have deliberations, but any kind of interference or intimidation. I was really pleased tonight to see the chair address a real concern about the rising cost of our ambulance services. The ad hominem attacks by our fire, whoever they were, bureaucrats, on the chair were outrageous and uncalled for, especially on an evening when our town clerk, Robin Campbell, spoke so eloquently about the need for civility. And Stephanie, thank you for handling that with grace and composure. And I would urge the board in the future to have an immediate point of order, to have that kind of behavior desist. Thank you for hearing me.
You, Peter. Nick Tella.
Nick Tello, 49 Myrtle. So last meeting, I think it was pretty good. I think I even gave you guys credit last time. Tonight, I think was pretty bad. I normally, I've been liking what I hear from Lisa Wolf overall, but the overstepping and such, it's happening too much. And I don't know, maybe a way to reduce that is having all persons of board members, unless there's a legitimate reason to be present, to maybe reduce that overstepping, because I think she's been having a lot of good things to be said. I also have a concern with certain members in particular trying to rush through meetings, call into motion or question and such, and not really letting the dialogue and conversation happen instead of just trying to get through these meetings. It's concerning to see that. In regards to the vehicle situation, I have concern that I don't know what kind of oversight. I would assume that you guys have some kind of oversight on the lease agreements and such, at least taking a look at them. And we put ourselves in a lease agreement where we're making payments on a vehicle that we don't have. I just don't understand how that happened, how there was no contingency to say, hey, this lease is not going to happen if we don't take possession of this vehicle, and the company is to make us right from the payments that we've already made. I would hope that the Board of Finance would have had some kind of say, or at least been able to catch that, and how that slipped through is concerning. The Board of Finance had no problem calling out the library when it came to staffing issues and wanting dollar amounts and hours worked. There was no problem. They had them come back and give that information. And while James and I right now probably don't agree on a lot, I really think he's pointing out something that's critical here. That we're giving $60,000 overall to Mike's company. And what kind of minimum hours are they doing? Sure, they might go through 2-3 months where they're putting in a little bit extra hours, but what's going on the other 9 to 10 or so months? Are they giving us 15 hours, 20 hours? What is going on? We the Board of Finance asked that from the library, but they never held Mike's company to the same standard. And I understand he's well liked and such in town, but we need to look at that. I know personally, I've been talking to people in Ashford and other towns that have Mike, and many people in the other towns are looking at options to try to hold the towns accountable for having him here. And it would have been nice to see Chris maybe some kind of get some money there. Let's see. That's all I have as far as that. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present to speak? Oh, wait. Oh, it's still Nick's hand up. Michelle Cunningham? Go with Ralph. I just saw your hand, Ralph. Would you like to unmute and speak?
I wasn't sure who you were calling on. Okay, Ralph Tullis, 47 Village Hill. I think that Mr. Tellis onto one thing, and I find it very annoying when there's 2 or 3 people talking at the same time. No one really hears anyone. I think that you all need to exercise a little more restraint and decorum. I realize everybody gets punchy after a long duration meeting, or because they want to get home and catch up on a game or something on TV. I get that, but still, be civil and make sure that the rest of us understand what's going on. A minor thing, and I don't know if Donna can do this, the grand list is going to need to be split apart from motor vehicles because of the differing mill rates. And I think it would be wise to start figuring out how you're going to work that into your spreadsheets. That's it. Have a great night.
Thank you. Anyone else online? I just want to be sure I'm seeing them all. Sam, maybe can you see any on that?
Nobody has.
Okay. Yes, Michelle.
Michelle Lisa Cunningham, 41 Lister Road. You're all volunteers, and I want to thank you all for the patience it takes to get through an appropriations meeting. Contrary to what we just heard, I don't think there was a lot of tension tonight. I mean, some years we have come close to coming to blows and really had shouting matches. And I feel like your board works together fairly well, and it makes it a lot easier for the town to be successful when we can work together like this. So thank you for your volunteerism. This is a long night, but it is appreciated and by those of us in the audience.
Thank you. Erica.
Yeah, Erica Washinsky. I want to commend you for the work. It's months of work, but on top of that, it is months beyond that our business manager puts in to maintain budgets for both the town and the Board of Education. And, you know, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the work that she puts in to support myself, the superintendent, and the Board of Finance, along with all of the other aspects of her role as business manager. So, you know, I want to thank Donna for the hard work she puts in. These cuts aren't easy. The requests we had weren't easy for all of you, and it's not easy to put forth an increased budget to our taxpayers. But I feel confident that the things that are in this budget are the basic needs of the town as it sits today. So thank you.
Thank you. Donna, do you remember if there was a percentage year over year for this budget after the cuts and after what we were doing? Was it 3%? Is it down to 3?
Total general government? No, I don't remember.
Okay. Okay.
Changed.
I was just curious. I think we're probably close to 3 instead of 3.4. Maybe not entirely there. Okay. Good and welfare. Thank you for your patience, and you know, I hope that no one would ground any good dental work down too far. And we'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when. Is there movement to adjourn?
Yes, by all means, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I am always in favor of adjourning.
Yeah.
Have a nice night. Thank you, everyone.